You don't exist. Take a perk and it's talking and see. Money swollen like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who take on my hate. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Deku Helps His Best Friend, Peter Parker. Smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. 4 days. It has been 4 days since Peter arrived in Japan. And if he was being honest, he was still getting used to it. Not just the language. Even if that was a problem, it was the people. There was normal-looking people, of course, but so many of them looked like things out of a kid's sketchbook with animal or other odd stuff. He could have sworn he saw one kid's head be nothing but a comic strip page. Thought that any of them were bad. You and Chief Fukuda had already done so much for him. Him, a kid from America, a kid from another universe. It was because of them that he had a roof over his head, food to eat, and a chance to be a normal teenager again. At least, this world's version of normal. I'm heading out on patrol. Peter turned, catching Yu in full costume as she made her way through the living room. He smiled and waved, taking care not to mess anything up in the kitchen as he was busy unloading the dishwasher from the night before. Good luck and have a good day, Yu. Yu smiled, but it couldn't stop the whine that came through. A small part of Peter laughed at Yu's situation. Back home, being Spider-Man was the best part of the day. Finally, after hours of pretending to be something he wasn't, he could cut loose and help people. What he loved doing the most. Even the little things like giving directions and helping little old ladies cross the street felt more with the suit on. Spending all day like that, not having to worry about grades, bullies, hell, school in general, and be paid for doing the right thing sounded like a dream come true. Apparently, you didn't feel the same way. At least, not this early in the morning, given how wide she yawned. I've only got morning patrols today, so I'll be back around 3. We can get you some more clothes after that, okay? Sounds good. Oh, and a phone, in case you needed to call while you're out and when you got to school eventually. Peter was thankful that this whole crazy world had some familiarity. Their phones were normal smartphones, albeit with new features. He'd adjust to that easily when he has the chance. Thanks, Yu. Also, the chief should be coming by sometime to give you your visa, Yu called, grabbing a Pop-Tart to munch on while on the go. Already? That was awful fast. Didn't that stuff take a while? The movies made it seem like it took a bit of time. All the paperwork, making a digital pass, taking a mugshot and putting it on quality cards took a montage. Yu shrugged, looking just as surprised as Peter even through her mask. Botan called in a few favors. Good thing too, classes start tomorrow for high schoolers like ya. Given your height, Botan had to de-age you, making you 15 so that you can enter UA. And have the convenient excuse of being held back a year since, well, they do it in America a lot. He has to retake freshman year. Balls, don't remind me, Peter mumbled, getting back to unloading. Don't worry about it, you'll be fine, and hold on a second. Yu tapped her ear and after a second rolled her eyes. Shihashi no dawo jin ende masu, shinji wo iwai shinedeki dasai, she said to the earpiece. Her pout grew with every passing second. She made a face and turned her hand into a yammering puppet. Peter giggled at the sight. Her eyes twinkled at the sound, only for the call to rip the moment apart. An unseen Ishiatsudo. That was Kamui, she explained. I'm late for pre-patrol checkup apparently. The jerk is probably salty about Shamu. A quick slap to the face forced her to brighten up. She beamed, hand on the door. See you soon, Peter, she waved on her way out. Bye. Peter waved back as best he could, but his heart wasn't in it. Cause now was the worst part of the day. The waiting. It just felt wrong sitting around for things to happen to him. Back before the homecoming fiasco with Mr. Toombs, he could kill the time with his patrols as Spider-Man. Here though, that was a big no-no. He could walk around, but with no suit to translate he'd get lost pretty quickly, and that would lead to a headache for you. If he had a phone, it would be easier. He can watch TV, try and pick up and speak phrases. He heard that NBA players back home in his own world, ones who came from Europe, were able to learn English through watching TV shows and listening to hip-hop music. Once he gets his own phone, he will need to listen on the music here. Aside from watching TV, the only other thing was tinkering around with Mr. Stark's suit, which lasted all of 2 hours on the first day before he gave up. Peter thought he could get something out of it. He got that stupid baby monitor program out of the suit back before the ferry incident. But the Iron Spider suit, not a chance. He tried to tinker with the Mr. Stark's other suit, the one he got for the Germany trip, and found a small USB-sized compartment that must have contained Karen and the necessary functions of the suit. It had the same blue glow of an arc reactor when he looked it from the inside of his suit, as if there was stitched-in patch on the inside of someone's shirt. After all, but Yu's apartment wasn't exactly the best place to hack into a multi-million-dollar superhero costume, and he didn't have the mask and its HUD to help connect with Karen. He kicked himself mentally for tearing off the mask when he got on the space donut. If he hadn't, he could have had Karen through the fight, been able to get by a lot easier, have someone familiar to talk to. He had a feeling the suit mask would have connected well with the neural interface, but alas, he can only rely on the neural interface for now. Nothing he could do for now. He would pat the spider symbol on the suit and would look at it affectionately before going about his day. So with all those options out of the running, the only thing left was helping out where he could. He set the clean dishes aside and made his way to the living room where he looked out at the battlefield before him. The war between him and the laundry being piled up in Yu's room. Cleaning wasn't much to pay Yu back for all that she's doing for him. She told him as much, waving off his concerns like she'd gotten used to all this. He still remembered her surprise when she came back to a visible carpet, then a cleaned-up bedroom. Just because she'd gotten used to it didn't mean they both needed to live in a barn. Peter quickly picked up his supplies from the counter and set to work on the windows, dusting the TV and vacuuming the carpet. Simply chores to keep his hands busy, cause if he was busy he could focus on the sheen that he knew he could get out of the windows, or buff the color in the aging carpet, and not think about what happened. It didn't always work, but Peter didn't let it stop him. He was going to learn, he was going to be something great. And that day his visa arrived in the mail. Turns out Fukuda sent it via mail instead of in person. Fair enough. Step 1 was finished, now on to step 2, school. Turns out, Peter really shouldn't have worried about getting lost. His new phone was, fortunately, the newest model that you could get. It didn't have even a tenth of the bells and whistles that came with Mr. Stark's suit. Not that it was a competition, nothing would even get close to his tech even in a world full of superpowers. Anyway, the map app had an English option, and with it and a few directions from Yu, Peter made his way to his new classroom. Musutafu foreign exchange class at the local community college. Yu had given him a quick rundown that schools worked a little differently here in Japan. Apparently, there were half days in the schedule, only lasting from 8 to noon. Now that was awesome, less school was always a blessing. What wasn't was the fact that Saturdays were a school day. 6 school days a week. That's a crime. Small upside, Sundays were still off. Peter shook his head. It wasn't much of an upside when he had to walk to his class alone. Every step following the crowd and his map to the college in agonizing silence without Ned. Without any of his friends around. It made the knot in his gut twist. He was going to school, but there was no Ned, no MJ, hell he would take Flash. Someone to make the college feel like somewhere he could fit in. It felt even weirder when he flashed his ID to the guard at the gate. Yu had insisted that everything had come through for them, but it didn't feel like it. Because even looking at the other students as he arrived in his classroom, all the legal paper in the world didn't spot him from feeling like he stood out. He remembered that there was supposed 8% of everyone born globally was supposed to have a power or a quirk, but this was too much. He saw a guy whose entire body was covered in eyes. A girl whose tongue was wrapped around her neck like a scarf. There's even a guy that looked like his eyes were on fire. He shook it off and went to the first seat that looked open next to a blonde girl with 2 massive horns sticking out of her head and had a unique nose. She shrank into her seat when Peter got closer. She had a mix of Asiatic and Caucasian features. Looking around, he saw some other kids looking like him, or kids of darker skin tone talking with accented English. "Oh, hi," he tried. Bit of a long shot in hindsight. Sure, it was a class for foreigners, but not all of them would know English. "Hi," she muttered back. "Huh, looks like he was wrong." "I'm Peter," he said, holding out a hand. She looked at the hand and blanched. "I'm Pony, like the horse." "Why, yeah," she said. "Well, nice to meet you," he offered. "And nice to meet you too." "So," he said, sitting down, "why are you here?" Pony perked up at the question, only to turn her gaze to her desk. "I am hoping that I can take the entrance exam to UA. I just came here from Texas to live with my dad, and I need to get adjusted to living life in Japan." Peter blinked and Pony shook her head. "I know it's a long shot. Me, a foreigner trying to get into the same school that All Might went to, even though he got his career jump-started in America." She gave him a timid laugh, rubbing the base of her horns. "It's really silly saying it out loud, isn't it?" "No, it isn't. Not at all." Peter learned of this All Might. Think Captain America with the strength of the Hulk to boot, and far more charismatic from what clips he has seen of him. Pony turned back, the edge of a smile coming to her. Really? I mean, I'm trying to get there too. Really? Peter jumped at the volume, with Pony leaning very closely, and he had to duck his head a little to avoid her horns. She had an overeager grin on her face. She shifted in her seat before holding out a hand. Let's start this over. I'm Pony Tsunotori from Austin, Texas. Peter took the hand and gave it a firm squeeze. Peter Parker. He smiled. I'm from Queens. You have a New York accent too. I can tell. The girl beamed, and Peter allowed himself to smile. Well, he just made his first friend. He can see her horse-like tail swish more often. And then the classes began. Pony was willing to look over Peter's starting kanji and help him improve, as she knew more Japanese than he did. In return, Peter noticed a problem in her algebra work. By the end of the day, the thought of coming back to the class didn't seem so bad. Only downside was telling you about it, and she was egging him about loving horses a bit too much. And on girls. UA entrance exam is in 10 months. And so began Peter Parker's 10 months of education and acclimation. Days turned to weeks, and Peter was finally able to make out words and sentences while out eating in downtown. His Japanese calligraphy and penmanship needs work, but he can get a better grasp of the tongue, along with typing it on a keyboard. But there was some embarrassing moments. I would like a number 4 with a shake please, said a giraffe man in front of him at Grabgo, a nearby burger joint, as Peter waited behind him. He picked up on the words, processing them in his head. When the cute twin-tailed cashier took his order, he walked off. Welcome to Grabgo. How may I take your order? The young girl asked with pep, inputting the previous order in her pad. Peter remembered what the giraffe man said, biting his lip. I like 4 number please shake, he said, grinning. There, he got it wrong, given how she laughed. Oh, a number 4 with ice cream shaku, the teen girl asked in heavy accented English. Japanese, still trying to learn, Peter admitted, blushing as she blushed. You can do it, she chirped in English. Number 4 with a shake, coming right up. Peter paid with the debit card you loaned him, and he walked to the table remembering his number. I like 4 number please shake. Or is it like number ... 4 ... I shake please go. He broke out of his Japanese and groaned. This is gonna take work. The weeks began to fly. Peter writing the repetition of Japanese hiragana, katakana, and kanji with Pony helping beside him. He had started bad at worst, averagely at best at first, but he was getting the hang of it. He handed his first hand-drawn essay to his teacher. Got a 70. Not bad. Got to improve. Pony would pat him on the back, even as she got in the 90 seconds. A number 4 and shake please, Peter exclaimed at the joint, beaming. You're getting the hang of it, keep it up. The cashier giggled, inputting the order. Peter let out a light laugh. I would like apply for membership at UA Academy so that I become hero, Peter stated, sitting on the couch as you nodded. Like that. Closer. You're missing some words. Let me help ya. After we get some Italian. Peter would get restless many a time. Deciding to keep in shape, you managed to get him a gym membership that was near the beachfront that was open 24/7. Peter would sometimes jog to the gym early in the morning. Doing weights and exercises there was so liberating as opposed to back in his old home. He can just lift and breeze through weights or many km/h speeds on the treadmill before showering a little and jogging to class to catch up with Pony. It helps that it is on the way to the foreign exchange class, given how the community college was only several blocks from the beach. The fastest route was along the beach road, but the sight of mountains of trash and pollution in one of its parks repulsed him, and he took to walking some streets within. Didn't need to walk by a landfill. How come no one has cleaned it up yet? One day, while deciding to go on the fast route to lift some major weights, he was running by, noticing that the landfill looked smaller, and he can hear yelling within. As he kept his eye on the noises, he can hear phrases of harder, put your back into it, and you wanna be a hero, clench your butt and push that tire. Okay then, not paying much mind, he resumed his jog to the gym without incident. More weight, Peter yelled at a supervisor, putting on more slabs of concrete on the bars. He strained and pushed up. 1 ... 2 ... 3 ... 4 ... 5 ... Nice and easy. This is a breeze. At least he's not some skinny wimp. At least, not the image he presented back home to hide his powers. Benching a ton was a cinch. he finished, breathing out a sigh of relief. Going to be a hero kid? Asked the trainer, a round brick-looking man. Literally, he was made of bricks. Yeah, going to UA. I am. Peter grinned. Get down from there, you chided, seeing Peter make a webbing hammock and relaxing in his iron spider suit as he read some Japanese history, muttering the words as he read the characters and assigned the faces he sees throughout Japan's history. What? My sheets are in the washer. I've been sleeping on a couch for the last several months after all. It is a one-bedroom apartment after all. You promised that she'll hire movers and they get a 2-bedroom when she gets a salary increase. Can't you just sit and read like a normal person? Nah, I'm out of the way anyway. It's your. Peter fired a web shot at the calendar beside you. It was Sunday. Turn to do cleaning. The costumed mount lady grumbled, hand taking the webbing and removing it. Peter made sure he went for a non-stick silk this time. Last month they had to deal with a web symbol over Sunday. Fine. I miss my organized chaos. Peter laughed. Organized chaos, that is not. He said in Japanese, not English. The act made you, who was going to her room to change out of her costume, come back with wide eyes. Peter grinned behind his mask, going back to his reading as the suit's scanning allowed him to translate the words for him to speak out and mutter. Getting better, I am. You could only smile. She thought this whole guardianship thing would be tough. She never imagined it would be this fulfilling. That's how long ago that was. Geez, why aren't we in space by now? Peter yelled in English. You slumped. Hopefully he'll speak Japanese more often, as much as she appreciates the English tuning up she gets from speaking to him. Peter sat on his bed, his calligraphy essay complete as he looked at the Stark suit in his hands, specially focusing on the chest area, and his hands going over the spider insignia, feeling the small patch within, the module that contained Karen. He took some scissors, biting his lip as he took it to his suit. But it wouldn't cut. He snipped and snipped, but couldn't make a tear, until the sharpness of the blade wore out and Peter sighed. So much for accessing the glowing blue compartment. Always thinking ahead, Mr. Stark. He was grateful for the suit's protection, but this, the one he wished for it not to be so effective. Better get to revising his essay. Peter would jog toward the gym, and sometimes he would see a boy passing by, panting and breathing hard. Green hair. Then again, he's seen the UA Sports Festival on television and saw this one super cute and curvy girl with navy blue hair that was all natural. But that kid looks familiar. Nah, gotta get his spot at the treadmill. Time to sprint for a good 40 miles. No way he will let that old cheetah lady take it. I would like a surf and turf special with a side of fried rice, please, Peter said, reading the menu and handing it to the waiter. Your Japanese is very good, boy, the octopus man said, using his many tentacles to write down the order. You beamed as she sat next to him, sitting with a tepan as an octopus man got to work. Man, this food is good, he would never barf it up. Peter was doing study hall with Pony, finishing up his social studies as he looked at the monsoon outside. The landfill he passed by a few times was getting smaller, so he went by there early this morning on his jog. He's never been sick since the bite, so all he was at class was simply drenched. But who would even clean up that place in this weather? Someone crazy, no doubt. Peter sighed as he relaxed under the sun on Sunday. Sun and Sunday. That felt so right. He took a dip in the ocean and was just cool to get some rays. This was California-esque sun right here, and he never went to California. He continued his studies. He kept his always fit body in shape. Peter spoke more with others and was handling conversation easier. One day, before the sight of a setting sun, he found a hillside in a park that overlooked Musutafu. He took a knife and carved out names and initials on them, with a big heart in the middle. Uncle B, Mr. S, Aunt M. Ned, MJ, Peter Q. Drax, Mantis, Dr. S. Never forget, love you always. Now, I can visit you guys whenever I can, he said under his breath, standing back as he witnessed the little carving he made. He looked up, and Peter admired the tree. Hope you like the tattoo tree. It was made with love. Peter patted it, and he turned around, collecting his backpack, walking as crisp as ever towards downtown and home. He always made sure to visit, every Saturday night when he could, to tell the tree of his week, what he has planned. He would get some stares from onlookers, but he didn't cause a commotion. Even an officer who thought Peter was loitering understood when Peter gave him a good cover story of friends and family in the USA who passed away. And tree hasn't been touched by anyone else since, and he continued to go there every Saturday. Happy birthday, you exclaimed as she presented a cruddy-made chocolate cake. Homemade, no doubt. I was so busy you remembered? Peter asked, jaw agape. It was August 10th, of course. Come on, we're gonna have cake and good news too. What is it? Peter asked, as the blonde woman offered a gift. We're going to Universal Studios Japan. I got some vacation days. Universal Studios Japan was a blast. He's never been a theme park, so they went early in the morning and took a bullet train to Osaka and hit on all the rides till closing time. It was Sunday, and it would usually be Yu's turn to clean, but she did so Saturday night before. Summer turned to fall. The grades continued to excel. The language and mannerisms easier to understand. His friendship with Pony going strong, as she was cute in her own way. Yu was improving in her hero career, bagging enough captures and popularity polls to justify an increase in salary. Fall turned to winter. Christmas gifts were exchanged. He even gave Mr. Fukuda a gift in the form of a space heater to tackle to the winter, which the old man appreciated with a late gift in the form of 5,000 yen gift card to Amazon. The New Year's came and went. Valentine's Day and White Day was unique. Turns out chocolate exchanges were used instead of cards. He and Pony swapped chocolates, and he gave Mount Lady the same. The manga magazine Seinen Leap had a new manga too, called Arachnophobia by the man who read his mind, Araki Hayu, which was intriguing. A boy born from a spider aiming to become a hero with the help of a tin man and a wizard in a ruined decaying war. Peter stopped after one issue. It felt a little close to home. And Gym Trip by Gym Trip, the landfill by the beach park got smaller and smaller. In conjunction, Peter's acclimation became easier and easier. He passed the foreign exchange class in December with Pony. I'll see you at UA. Let's do our best, Peter. The blonde girl exclaimed as she looked at her grades. As in BS, Peter looked down at his own. 90 seconds in all except calligraphy, which was in the mid-80 seconds. Yeah, let's kick ass when we get to UA. Pony, it was time to apply to UA. For the winter term, February 24th, a Saturday, Peter came by the tree. I'm going to do it, everyone, he said after recounting the week. I will be a hero you all can be proud of. His eyes settled on the Mr. SLB, that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He smiled, resting his forehead on the aged carvings. I love you, and I'll come by again next week if I can. If I don't, well, just blame school. Peter took a deep breath, looking away. He can see you waiting by the road and her car, looking up at him. He sniffed, wiping his eyes. I love you. He kissed the tree, resting his forehead, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. He reopened them. I'll make you proud. I promise. February 26th, the day of the UA entrance exam. Peter couldn't sleep. It was time to become a hero. He couldn't contain himself, getting out of bed and still in his PJs. Peter went to the rooftop of his apartment complex and looked out over Musutafu. He didn't care that he can see that landfill is gone, or the beautiful sunrise. He was done of the waiting, being confined to the gym and the apartment to use any semblance of his powers. He can finally spread his wings and free his cage. He took a deep breath. Done. He was finally done. Peter Parker had that thought in his head, as did another youth, one whose 10 months was pure hell and nightmarish, all for his dream, and whooped in pure and utter joy. Miles away, the youth roared the top of his lungs until he couldn't breathe, exhausted to the core. Peter Parker had tears of joy down his face, the crisp morning air waking him up as he danced and let more woohoo. Midoriya Izuku was drenched in sweat, tears, snot, grime, and ached all over as he howled at the rising sun. But he was done. They had aced the trials put before them and passed in flying colors. The two had changed over the 10 months, but the real test for them both would begin today. At the UA entrance exam, the car ride to the UA testing center flew by for Peter. He double and triple checked that the Iron Spider module and his suit was in his bag, along with whatever pens that he would need for the written exam. He had tested months ago that the Iron Spider module could only work with the Spider-Man suit, since without Karen, Peter would have to rely on the neural interface to utilize his web shooters and nanite legs on his back. By the time that he was finished running a hand over the symbol on the chest of his suit, the ride was over, and before he knew it, he was walking towards navy blue archway emblazoned with the symbol of the best hero academy in all of Japan. Yu said she was going to go back to work with a wink as she drove off. She had given him a good luck, but she also told him to give it his all. UA Academy had the best course for a reason. Its standards were as high as one would expect from a school with its reputation. 3% was the average acceptance rate each year. If Peter wanted to get in, he'd have to go beyond, like All Might, the worldwide symbol of peace. And he would. He wasn't just some kid from America like his papers said. He could read the signs directing him towards the testing centers. He could understand the mutterings of the crowd as they gushed about being here. He was Spider-Man. He was an Avenger. And he was going to make everyone that got him here proud. Taking his assigned seat, he saw a card in front of him. Exam cards. Oh right, you talked about those, didn't she? Something about splitting people up into different centers for the practical. But before that, there was the written test. Signs directed Peter's every turn until he arrived at a door labeled Standard Orientation. However, there was another door with a recommendation sign going over it. One student got a little close, and the sign above them flashed red, screeching a small alarm. The student jumped back and quickly made his way to the Standard Orientation door. Peter followed him in, only to stop as someone else walked by, heading to the recommendation door. She filled out her school uniform in all the right ways, maybe as statuesque as that blue-hair girl from the sports festival on TV he saw. Stunning, no, not even close. She made Liz look like a 6 out of 10. Long black hair tied in a cute ponytail, a little taller than him. Sharp eyes, elegant posture, she had it all. He should probably stop staring before it got awkward. Where was he supposed to be going again? Out of the way extra. Peter flinched out of the way as a sandy blonde boy tried to shove Peter to the side with his pocketed arm. He sneered when he couldn't get a hand on Peter, noticing those sharp red eyes of his, huffing and stomping his way into the auditorium. What's his deal? He turned and the pretty girl was gone. So with slumped shoulders, he trudged his way in. The second he got in, Peter saw the hundreds of already filled seats, making his jaw drop. Was this like how college kids did classes, with hundreds of people? A message directing students to sit at their assigned seats and not to touch the exam in front of them was displayed on the wall. Peter reached into his pocket, double-checking his exam card that had come in the day before. Exam ticket, examinee no, 6110, test location, Battle Center B. Okay, that put Peter around the middle of the auditorium. He descended down the stairs, passing a student that had a hawk for a head and, is that a floating set of clothes? Must be an invisibility quirk. He noticed some stares his directions, probably due to the fact he didn't, well, look Japanese. Either way, he dropped his things at the seat behind some private school-looking student with black-blue hair and thick glasses. He was rimrod straight, with unblinking eyes laser-focused on the projection in front of him. A bit high-strung though, Peter had gotten lucky with Pony. Couldn't hurt to try. Hello. Peter held out a hand. I'm P. I appreciate your attempt at socializing, the boy said, his voice terse and clipped. But if you wouldn't mind, I need to focus on the exam. As should you. His face settled on Peter's for a moment. A foreigner. Anyways, we are being given the chance to earn our place at the most prestigious academy in all of Japan. If I were you, show some respect. Peter blanched. Geez, sorry, he muttered in English. Glasses narrowed his eyes and turned back towards the screen. Peter slumped in his chair, doing his best to ignore the snickers and mutters around him. He can hear mutterings of stupid Gaijin and he American or British, or maybe Australian, or bet he's so wild and insane like those American heroes they couldn't even accept him at Manton or Xavier. He scanned the crowd again and caught sight of Pony, smiling a few rows down. She must have noticed him. She waved, and Peter waved back, cracking a small grin. She tried to send one back, but a shiver made it wavy. Looks like she's nervous. It's all right, at least they both had one friend here. Beside her, some sun-kissed blonde kid, not the angry one from before but one as well dressed as glasses, gave a lazy smirk his direction. A very smug and lazy one at that. All right, boys and girls, this is your school DJ coming to you live from the monitoring room. Came a voice from the loudspeakers. This is your official message to get rockin' on those tests in front of you. But no cheating. This is a hero course, so I'll be keeping a groovy eye on everyone here. You've got 2 hours to complete the written before we get to the main course. Your time begins right now. The monitor switched from the symbol to a digital countdown clock, and the auditorium was filled with the sounds of tapping pencils. Peter flipped his test over and all but slammed the tip of his pencil onto the answer. Time's up. Pencils down, said the voice in thick English. Peter let out a breath he didn't remember holding. In front of him his test lay completely, down to the last period. Compared to the tests he'd gotten back home at his school, this was easy. It almost gave Peter the impression that the school was taking it easy on them. Or maybe, the written test didn't matter as much as the practical. As if to answer him, the lights cut out, drawing everyone's attention to a blonde man with deep shades and a boombox strapped around his neck standing. Present Mike, the voice hero. Peter listened to a few of his podcasts, since he tends to combine English with his speech. He should thank him in private for helping him get acclimated to Japan at some point, should he pass. Welcome to today's live performance. Everyone say hey. Dead silence met his ears. Peter gave a light hey, and waved. He got a sideways glare from glasses again, and a few chuckles. Talk about awkward, though Mike thrived on it, smiling a megawatt grin. Hey, least I got a crowd. Well, that's cool, my examinee listeners. I'm here to present the guidelines of your practical exam. Are you ready? Yeah. Again, silence met his hype outcry. Not total silence. Peter could hear someone muttering nonstop a few rows down. He narrowed his eyes. Wait, that's the angry blonde kid from before and green hair again. Now, like your application said, you're now going to be throwing down in our super hip urban settings. That's right, boys and girls, you're going to be rocking out in this 10-minute mock battle. The monitor behind him changed, showing a pseudo-map of the auditorium and 7 testing centers. Gird your loins, my friends. After I drop the mic here, you'll be going to your specified battle centers. Sound good? Okay. When silence met him for a third time, the hero laughed it off. Snapping his fingers, the monitor changed again. Alright, do me a solid and check out your targets. There are 3 types of faux villains in each center. You'll earn points based their level of difficulty, so don't choose wisely and put on your buffs. Your goal is to use your quirks to shred these villains and earn points to raise your level all the way up. But check it, he warned, make sure you're keeping things heroic. Attacking other examinees is the biggest no-no that we can have. That made sense. No point in being a hero if you're going to hurt people. Though, why did Peter hear someone groan behind him? Whatever it was, in front of him, Glasses raised his hand. Excuse me, sir, I have a question. Mike's grin widened at the attention. Hit me, he said, and Glasses was suddenly spotlighted for everyone to see. On the printout, there are 4 types of villains, yet you say that there are 3. With all respect, if this is an error, then it is a great disservice to us and the reputation of UA. We are exemplary students, so we expect the best from Japan's most notable school. Continuing on his tirade, Glasses threw an accusative finger at some kid with green hair. Wait, didn't Peter see him before? He looked familiar. You've been muttering this entire time. Stop it. If you can't bother to take things seriously, just leave. You're distracting the rest of us. He glowered. Green hair hung his head in shame, and Peter heard more than one student giggle. Peter only frowned. So what if he was muttering? This was UA. Everyone's allowed to be nervous. Take a chill pill, man. Peter muttered under his breath in English. And you be quiet, American. Glasses whispered back with English, thick but legible, with another sideways glare. Speak our language or leave. Okay, now he was just becoming a fucker at this point. Foreigner. Glasses muttered under his own breath in his tongue. At least Flash had the stones, however small they were, to openly throw insults. Not like he can back them up. But Glasses did look tall and strong, so Peter rolled his eyes. You did tell him that foreign exchange students could face some discrimination due to how Japan wasn't exactly a melting pot of other cultures like Europe or America is. He'll just have to roll with it. Alright, Mike said, silencing the hall. Examinee No. 7111. Thanks for calling in with your request, he said, giving him a thumbs up. The 4th villain type is worth 0 points. Peter blinked and looked down the row. Pony shot him a confused glance. Peter shrugged. What's the point of a villain not worth anything? You kids ever play Super Mario Bros? That guy is the thomp to your chances. He'll be there to get in your way. There's one in every battle center. It's not impossible to beat it, but you're on the clock and there's really no point. I recommend that my listeners ignore it and focus on the ones topping the charts. His question answered, Glasses gave a polite bow and sat back down. A few students whispered how it's like a video game. The points, the boss, everything was set up like one. Strange, but what hasn't been? That's all for today, listeners. Head to your battle centers with a little gift. A sample of our school motto. As General Napoleon Bonaparte laid down, a true hero is one who overcomes life's misfortunes. MHM, now that's one tasty soundbite. He quirked an eyebrow, eyeing everyone expectantly. So you ready to go beyond? Let me hear a plus ultra. Okay, good luck. The trip to the battlegrounds was a quick bus ride. Once everyone was there, the buses were used as individual changing rooms for anyone that needed it. He put on the suit first, and slapped the iron spider module on the nape of his neck, feeling the nanites slide over him and his HUD come to life. When Peter stepped out, he felt like everyone's eyes were on him. Whoa, look at that costume. Someone's overcompensating. Who does he think he is? He's not even a hero yet. That looks so cool. Talk about manly, but sleek, like a sports car. His mask hid the flush overtaking him. Maybe putting on Mr. Stark's suit was a bit much, but he had no choice. He had to do his best. He wasn't nothing without it, but he had a promise to keep. He checked the crowd and thankfully found a set of horns sticking out of the crowd. Like a true hero, the crowd parted in awe as Peter made his way through, all muttering as Pony was talking with the smug blonde kid from before, and some red-haired girl with green eyes. Hey Pony, he waved. Pony noticed her name being called and her jaw dropped at his voice. Whoa, Peter, is that you? She said in English, utterly surprised. Yeah, you like the suit. Like? Pony beamed. I love it. That's an actual superhero costume. Who made it for you? Whoa, that looks unique. Very pro style, the red-haired girl muttered in Japanese. The blonde shrugged. He's just showing off is all. Why else would he hide his face so much? Peter rolled his eyes and nodded. Yeah, my idol made this for me. Pony's jaw dropped even further. You got a hero to make that. Who is it? Unfair, someone said from the sidelines. Some cutsy idol made that for him. Peter slapped his head. Yeah, wish I could have my own suit. Very stylish. I meant more my role model. Peter spoke in Japanese. Sorry for slipping into English. Familiarity and all that. It's okay. I just made some friends during the written test. Pony beamed, her eyes bright as she almost bounced. Let's do our best, right? Peter nodded. Best of luck to you, foreigner, the blonde kid stated. You'll need it to get into Japan's best hero institution. He got a glare from the red-haired girl as he walked off, her following. Alright, let's start. Everyone stopped and saw President Mike atop what looked to be a guard tower. Get moving. There are no countdowns in real battles. Run, 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 listeners, you're wasting airtime. Like a gunshot, everyone took off. Pony went off like a racehorse and Peter felt his heart bang in his chest. He wiped his hand out, and a line of webbing grabbed the nearest building. With a might heave, he launched himself over the gasping crowd. What the? Look at him go. Is that some slingshot? He hoped he didn't distract them too much. He could see some green-haired kid at the very back lag. What is it with him seeing green-haired kids? Never mind that. Focus on the exam. Because this was it, the start line. He flipped in the air, arms wide as he spotted the first set of green tank-looking combat robots. Peter smirked under his mask as he fired some web to the ground, and pulled himself to the ground like the bullet and crashed into the robot feet first, his nanite legs sprouting to break his fall as he saw the gallery of robots swerving from the urban street blocks. The robot behind him was split in two. Time to spread his wings, and Peter grinned behind his mask. Look out, UA. Here comes your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Boring, not a word that Todoroki Shoto would have thought would come to him during the UA practical exam for recommended students, but that's what came to him. He sat in the recreational room along with the rest of his recommended peers. According to policy, their recommendations were meant to substitute for their involvement in the practical either because they didn't need to or couldn't. This was just a waste of time in his eyes in order to scout the school beforehand and get a clue on where to go and what to do with himself. In his case, it was probably to give the rest of rabble a chance. They were all painfully average, barely an impressive quirk and quality among them. The rest of his recommended peers didn't impress him either. A rich girl with admittedly good looks, a smirking jabber mouth of some girl, and an eyesore. Nothing to draw his attention away from the screen before him. For some reason that Shoto couldn't fathom, they were allowed to watch the rest of the applicants as they went through their practical exam. Was it some kind of incentive to take notes? To analyze those that could become their teammates, their classmates and peers? Unlikely, but Shoto would believe anything at this point. The applicants on the screen went about with no armor and barely a special set of gear among. Hold on, what was that? Shoto leaned forward and he was vaguely aware that the other recommended students had stopped talking to each other. All of their eyes were glued to the screen as a red and gold suited student with a spider insignia on his chest smashed his way through faux villains like they were paper. Punches shredding the green tank robots, kicks severing heads with ease, and then spider legs just grew out of his back and cut down any that his fist missed. Is that his quirk? That's super cool. Takage Setsuna chirped, leaning forward. Geez, are the robots that weak or is this dude that good? Honuki Juzo mused with his arms crossed. Yaoyorozu Momo remained silent, sight transfixed as the red gold examinee flung something out of his wrist and was he flying? Wua, a hookshot, like in the Zelda games. This kid's rad. Setsuna beamed. Shoto narrowed his eyes. Who was this kid? Oh yeah. The sound of exploding metal was music to Peter's ears. Swinging through the false city, Peter felt more alive than he had in months. This was what he was missing. Swinging around, beating villains, doing something good. Being Spider-Man. Oh, how he missed this. Swinging around a building, Peter saw a line of 1 and 2 pointers. His HUD blew up, tracing a path in between the faux villains. Not wasting any time, Peter cut his web and fell like a meteor towards the tank. The machine's red eye only had time to look up at him before Peter crashed straight through it with a diving missile axe kick, severing it in two. And he wasn't done there. When the 2-pointer swiped with its claw, Peter flipped over, sticking along for the ride. On his impromptu slingshot, Peter was sent speeding towards a 1-pointer. Twisting in the air, the boy from Queens sailed over it, webbing it as he went. With his feet on the ground and a mighty heave, he swung the 1-pointer in a devastating throw. What faux villains were close enough were smashed to pieces by the world's most unorthodox bowling ball as the webbed-up clusterbot knocked them out like pins. Stree-like, Peter cheered, laughing. Oh yes, it's good to be back. The webbing went slack as the ball smashed into a three-pointer. It screeched as its parts tried to keep it upright. But the effort was wasted when Peter kicked off its head as he swung by. He slung some web back for the ruined head and charged at a one-pointer. Wade's on the breakaway. Does he handle it? He lobs it too. Peter threw the head up, avoiding the one-pointer's strike, and used web to bring the head down to his hand, going for a one-handed slam dunk. James, Peter roared, pushing down on the air and then slapping his chest before giving out a cheer. The robot, now headless and the projectile head used to slam now slag, fell lifeless to the ground. With all of the targets destroyed, his HUD went back to scanning for villains. It wasn't Karen, but Mr. Stark really outdid himself with the neural interface. He outdid himself on everything that he built, but this is so cool. Every time that something came into view, his HUD would mark it red. Even his suit was buying into this whole video game idea. He heard explosions and he walked around the block. Peter saw glasses running down the street. He turned around when he saw the row of broken robots, and he thought Peter wasn't taking this seriously. Swinging over a building, he saw some guy with silver hair, no mouth, and 6 arms blink in surprise. Peter waved, and one of the 6 arms hesitantly waved back. Wiping out another line of web, Peter followed the sound of explosions. He turned the corner and the building he was latched to shook. Danger flashed in the back of his head, and he wiped out another line as fast as he could. He pulled himself up just as the window under him shattered. A tank marked with a 3 exploded from the building like an angry god, uncaring of the 3-story fall that was to come. Even as gravity took hold, it leveled a turret at him, and way too many missiles popped out. Oh no you don't. Peter's web shooters became machine guns, webbing up the barrels. The red eye blinked, then knew no more as the missiles detonated in their casings. The explosion shot Peter into the building, and from his back he felt the spider legs catch him in his fall. Ugh, I don't remember that ever happening to Mario. Shaking himself off, he looked up and saw the red eyes of 3 two-pointers. Every one of their tires screeched, rushing towards him like their brother before him. Bring it on, Wallies, Peter screamed. He jumped to the ceiling, barely dodging the first of his attackers. Dropping down, he webbed the closest villain's turret to the right, forcing it to fire on its friend. He ducked just in time to avoid a hit, and an iron spider leg cut through his would-be attacker like butter, goring it. On instinct, he webbed the wheels of one, freezing it in place next to the window. Like a madman, he rushed forward, knocking the villain and himself out of the building. Gravity took care of that as the robot exploded in a mighty crash, though that had nothing on the real sound of commotion. Peter swung into what looked like the biggest clearing in the center. The remains of broken and destroyed robots littered the ground as his peers went to work breaking everything that they could see. But there was one that didn't look like he was doing too good. A small boy with what looked like grapes on his head ran for his life, a 3-pointer hot on his trail. Its turret was raised and Peter slung towards the small kid. He slung his webbing down, grabbing the kid and pulling him to safety as he looked back, firing another rapid-fire set of webs to clog up the missile vents. He slung to the ground with ease using his nanite spider legs, easing the grape-haired kid. You okay? Peter asked. I had him right where I wanted him in my trap, you jerk. What was that for? The bratty kid spoke with a lisp. Peter tilted his head. Welp, guess he's okay. Good to hear. I'm having a good day too, not gonna lie. Good luck on the exam. Hey, come back. Peter was already running and was swinging back to the melee. Those points were mine. His voice was drowned out. He didn't see any traps from his initial view, so maybe he was lying. He didn't mind either way. There had to be some time left for the kid to get some points. It had to be a while. 10 minutes wasn't long enough to do much. He'd gotten lucky with how many robots he'd run into. Was that enough to pass? Actually, did they even say how many points that you needed to have to pass? A scream of frustration knocked him out of his thoughts. Below him, a red-haired boy was wrestling with a massive 2-pointer. He was holding it back, but Peter could see the worry as a 1-pointer rushed forward, spear arm ready to gank the edgy redhead. No, seriously, his arms had edges. Peter dropped to the ground behind it and fired some webs, grabbing hold. The robot jerked to a stop. Peter heard a few beeps, and it suddenly got a lot harder to hold this thing back. Wait, that gave him an idea. Hey Red, he called, have a swing. The red boy's eyes glinted and he grinned a toothy grin. Now that's what I call manly, he screamed, gritting his teeth. The boy turned, throwing the 2-pointer over him right as Peter cut the webbing. The overzealous 1-pointer went off full tilt into the tumbling 2-pointer. The 2 scrap heaps blew apart, leaving Peter and the redhead safe for now. The boy ran up to the costumed hero. Bro, that was radical. He then fully looked him over. And your costume is awesome. Your parents pros or something. Doesn't even crack my top 5, and my role model gave it to me. The quip came out on reflex, but the boy's eyes beamed with delight. That's awesome, man. You came prepared. Sure, a pressing concern arose over his new red-headed friend, was the number of faux villains in the square. Despite the students, they were getting overwhelmed. Gotta run. Peace. Peter's body moved on autopilot, throwing out another line towards the growing swarm of students and robots alike. Time was precious, the exam important. But what kind of friendly neighborhood Spider-Man would he be if he didn't look out for the little guy? Come on. We're going to miss it. He's gonna ace this and I'm not gonna miss it. Takeyama, it's been 3 minutes, and I'm sure you're not even allowed to watch. You pouted. Nimiri felt the urge to smack her understudy with her whip. She was about to observe the practical exam to take part in evaluations, but not even a minute in and she's already in big sister mode seeing her understudy and Kuhai Takeyama Yu, the superheroine mount lady, outside her office and begging to watch. Yu was an intern once at the female-only firm Nimiri used to be a member of, and she would call her senpai if only for old time's sake. Now she's gotten mouthy and whiny and snarky and bratty and really, nothing has changed about her, aside from you becoming a full-time pro in Musutafu. She felt proud to see that intern become a hero, albeit one that can be a bit loud and a glory hog. Her heart was in the right place, but right now, her mind was not. She may be alumni but she isn't faculty. Most importantly, she couldn't let you know of one of the teachers inside the Hall of Judgment was a far weekend All Might, who was set to join the faculty this year as a teacher. Yet you possessed a one-track mind and alumni are allowed on campus, per Nezu's policy, giving her the entryway to go to her office and pounce on her senpai for a chance to watch the practical. She also dropped the bombshell of adopting a kid, who was an acquaintance of her grandparents' acquaintances that she didn't tell her senpai about for the last 10 months, and change until now. Oh, since she took in some American kid who was an acquaintance of her grandparents' acquaintances so he could get into UA, using her good word as extra sauce to get in. Strangely, he couldn't get apply to the American hero schools Manton or Xavier. Odd, we've missed the start of the exam. Yu-chan, calm down, Namiri said, tapping her old friend on the shoulder, trying to be soft and easy on her. You're not allowed to. The words died in the X-rated heroine's throat as the blonde grabbed her arm. Just get to the monitor room right now. With strength betraying her quirk, you dragged the older woman down the hall. For a second, Nimiri felt what every purse must have felt on a sale day. The 2 seconds of travel time felt like an hour, and only when you finally found the monitor room could Nimiri pry herself free. She frowned, and the black-haired minx of a heroine tore a part of her skin-tight costume. Sorry Takeyama, you forced my hand, Nimiri muttered as the pink mist from her quirk, somnambulist, seeping into the blonde. The blonde looked dizzy. Take a nap. But I wanna see Peter, she mumbled, eyes becoming sleepy as she slouched against the teacher. Nimiri caught her and set her down against the wall. Before long, the woman was out like a light. She patted her friend's head and strutted into the darkened room after inputting the key code. You're letting light in, and you're late, muttered Aizawa Shouda, Eraserhead, from across the room with a cross look. Nimiri shrugged. Inside, the famed Hall of Judgment was in full swing. All of the teachers, sans herself, were in their assigned spots, looking over the dozens of monitors streaming the feed from the different battle centers. Cementos glanced over from his seat, offering a kind smile. Ectoplasm and Snipe only gave a nod while the famed mousy principal kept his eye on the prize. Toshinori Yagi, All Might, sat right beside him in his skeletal form. The final hero in the room and the only one that wasn't in his seat was the insomniac and long dark-haired Aizawa. Like always, the Erasure hero looked like he'd spent the last 2 days staring at paperwork. Given the term being so close, she wouldn't put it past him. Got a reason for your tardiness. His eye twitched, and Nimiri couldn't resist flashing him a smile. I'm here every year to check on our cute little students to be, of course. Aizawa stared at her nonplussed. I meant with whoever was outside. I heard voices. Oh that. Just mount lady. She wanted to watch her ward perform booed. Confidentiality. Nimiri made her way to her seat, eyeing Toshinori. How long till your friend wakes up? The symbol of peace asked. 15 minutes to a half hour give or take. Girls get over my quirk faster than boys. So, what did I? Look at him go. Nimiri was cut off by 13's excited gasp, and her sapphire eyes turned towards the camera feeds from Battle Center B. The red and gold suited hero was slicing through robots like a knife through butter, thanks in no part to those metallic legs on his back. And he was busy using his webbing to pull students away from falling hazards or robots about to ambush examinees. That his quirk? She asked. You wasn't very specific on Peter Parker's abilities when they chatted. She only said that Peter would ace it and that she wanted to witness it. Guess she was not exaggerating. Doesn't look like it. It sprouts in and out at a whim. Plus he fired some sort of sticking shot. Or webbing, Snipe mused. Has to be. See some of the shots he missed. Forms like a spider's web. Fits given the spider symbol on his chest. Yagi concurred. But that suit is very well crafted. Nothing I've seen since those prototype suits the Shield Foundation would make on Island. And it seems he's gotten an understanding of the exercise down pat. Nezu beamed. Parker using his webbing to keep a lamp post from falling on them before slinging through the battlefield. Speed, power, utility, able to act on instinct and without hesitation. Gather information from the high ground. He is showing loads of promise. He's already at 40 points villain point. Oh, actually make that 45 now. And that's not even counting the possible rescue points he is accumulating once we go over the tape in closer detail. 13 said with an impressed air. Parker certainly is talented. Cementos mused from his chair, scratching his flat chin. Although I feel we may have to put in some limitations on equipment going into next year. Talented doesn't cut it. Ectoplasm commented. Look at the way he maneuvers his webbing, his acrobatics, and the way he pulls himself to his target and destination with blinding speed. Only one who has him beat in speed is the Ida kid on the ground. You don't learn those moves on the playground. It certainly speaks to his skill. Nezu leaned back in his chair, beady eyes examining Parker's footage. When you consider his power, it does remind me of something. He turned towards Yagi. He looked back, but his eyes were on monitors regarding battle centers and yeah, makes you wonder where he got that experience. Aizawa grumbled. What do we know of this Parker's background? Aside from that one vigilante report in Yusutafu. Apparently he is from New York, family members all deceased. Ectoplasm looked over the electronic file. Takeyama Yu, hero name Mount Lady, is his guardian here in Japan. Nimiri could spot Aizawa's eyes narrowing down at her. Peter is talented. I mean, if we're going by that vigilante report he committed 10 months ago, Nimiri spoke in Parker's defense. You don't have to worry about his report, Cementos said. If ignorance is a crime, then I'm afraid all of us need to be put away. We all committed that once or twice as youngsters. She let out a sigh of relief. Besides, they're more lax on it in America than here in Japan. Plus, I don't think we can look at a gift horse in the mouth, considering how exemplary Parker has performed thus far. Though this costume of his certainly gives him the edge in this test. Yu-chan wasn't kidding when she said Peter would be able to ace this no sweat. Nimiri watched as Parker now used his spider legs to gore another robot. Now he's over 50 villain points. She let out a whistle. It's almost unfair. Not really midnight. Snipe turned towards the minx. The preliminary tests are still a daunting task, regardless of experience or talent. Astute as always. Snipe, Nezu smiled. Like the other students, he doesn't know how many villains there are in the center nor their locations, even though he has done a good job finding their location by utilizing the high ground with his acrobatics and web slinging. With their limited time and the vast area, the challenge of accumulating points is daunting even for the most talented of our applicants. Some use information gathering to plan out assaults, while others use speed and maneuverability to get ahead of their peers. He paused, taking note of a certain screen depicting the foreign boy winging over a building to land atop a three-pointer with a diving dropkick. He then took a robot head, kicked up on his feet a few times like a hockey sack, and kicked it at a one-pointer. He's closing in on 60. He's joyriding, thinking this is all a game. Aizawa growled, no longer leaning with his back to the wall but with his shoulder, eyes focused on the monitor where Parker is. The way he treated the robot parts as props for playing around irked him. At least that wild child in Battle Center, his red eyes due to lack of sleep saw one blonde applicant tearing through robots like paper, looming over the wreckage. Is taking this seriously. You sound frustrated, Aizawa-san. 13 turned her head towards her colleague. If he was taking this as seriously as that blonde exploding kid. Aizawa closed his eyes. Wouldn't surprise me if he got to your villain point record. All might. Yagi perked up, looking back. You're certainly right. But Parker has been doing other things too. He's been helping his fellow examinees in acquiring points and saving them. He let out a soft smile. It's going to be interesting to see the total value for the rescue points when we go over the top. But his face fell when he saw one monitor, one with a green-haired boy just struggling to even tag a robot and get point and take part in the feeding frenzy. Nezu leaned forward in his chair. Though remaining calm is a huge advantage, as well as possessing raw power. The best students use a combination of all of these aspects to excel. They're the ones that rack up the highest scores. And both Peter Parker and Bakugou Katsuki are exemplifying this in spades. The monitors beside them, with the blonde-haired Bakugou Katsuki roaring into battle with his hands firing explosive blasts into a throng of robots, while the armored Peter Parker fired web shots to some robots and used his spider legs to fling himself upwards, bring them all together, right to be sliced like how an apple gets sliced in an apple slicer appliance, then slinging out to avoid the explosion, firing a web line to pull an examinee out of the explosive radius. The Ida child, who was watching all of this, was befuddled as Parker slung by, giving him a salute, and deposited the examinee to a safe distance before slinging off to the next. He looked back at the examinee, blinking and trying to absorb what just happened. Parker has to be knocking on 66 at least now. They're almost evenly matched, him and Bakugou, but the lead belonged to Bakugou of Battle Center A, if only by a hair, and Bakugou was focusing solely on destroying the robots. Parker was busy saving and destroying. This was going to be one talented freshman class coming in. However, is it time? Yagi asked. Mezu nodded. Yes, ectoplasm, begin the true test. If it weren't for his ever-present grin, Nimiri would have thought that ectoplasm was laughing. He reached forward and flicked the Yaruki switch, and the entire building shook. Peter heard rumbling and saw building quake and shake, and he turned. And a robot that towered over complexes and buildings appeared, looking like some robotic mobile fortress. This, the zero-pointer Wall-E, Peter said aloud, seeing many of the examinees stop in their tracks, utterly paralyzed at the sight. The robot lifted up an arm and Peter saw it bring it down, sending a massive shockwave of dust and debris and force down the street. He noticed countless examinees run the opposite direction, including glasses and red and... Wait, there was a kid down there. Why isn't he moving? Peter pondered what to do. Fight the thing. He lost count of his points after 30 or so. I should be okay, right? Or flee, like how Present Mike suggested. His interior thought process was in motion until his HUD spotted someone underneath the debris. It was a girl. She was trapped. Oh shit, Peter yelled, flinging his web to a nearby building. He made up his mind, flying towards the girl and boy. Gotta get to them. He flung himself, getting closer to the robot. Get them to his web. No, too far. In this case, gotta make a diversion. Peter aimed his web shooter towards the zero-pointer behemoth, only for his spine to tingle, and he aimed it the other way, avoiding a human-sized bullet heading towards the robot. Peter landed on the side of a building as he looked up with widened eyes, and witnessed the green-haired kid in the teal jumpsuit rear back his fist. SMASH. With a roar, the kid obliterated the face of the robot with one punch. Even the Hulk had that kind of power. He heard the Hulk stopped a Chitauri space whale with one punch, but never obliterate it. Whoa, that was awesome, Peter yelled out, seeing the giant robot, the one that was an obstacle for all the examinees, crumble in a heap. Then he noticed that kid was falling. Oh crap, baskets. I'm coming. Peter slung down, firing webbing at the kid and bringing him with an embrace, despite the utter agony the boy seemed to be in. Peter was about to fire another web sling towards a skyscraper to fly to safety until he felt someone touch his arm. Wait, what happened to his fall? He was about to spring his nanite legs to stop it until he saw what occurred, seeing that same girl who was pinned under the rubble, now floating atop a missile pod right beside him, many feet above the ground. Cute round face, chocolate brown hair in a workout jacket and normal t-shirt. Very cute too. Wait, floating? Whoa, I'm floating. Like I'm in space or something, Peter exclaimed in English as he floated downward, then tapped the floor with his feet as the pod came down with a crash. She muttered release weakly in Japanese too. Hey, you okay? Peter asked in Japanese before pausing, seeing the girl look really ill. Then she proceeded to barf and the boy looked away. Oof. Ew. Well, you're unharmed, right? She gave something of a thumbs up. He then looked at the boy in his arms, the green-haired youth looking up at him with wide eyes and freckles. Hold the phone. Wait, you, Peter murmured. Aren't you that hero from that giant villain? Green hair muttered, before seizing up and stifling his moans. He was in massive amounts of pain, it seemed. You're that kid, Peter exclaimed. No way. This kid was the one he had a hi-bye moment when he got here. He looked like that same kid he would jog by sometimes, and he was that kid. They were one on the same, and oh crap, he's hurt. Whoa, what's wrong? Let me go. Let me go. Green uttered, writhing and squirming to get out of Peter's arms, even if the act made him howl in pain. Peter held him with both of his arms, but his hand gripping Green's right shoulder only made it worse. He writhed out of Peter's grasp and was crawling on the ground. Dude, serious? What is? Then Peter saw his bloodied, bruised, and mangled legs, and reverted from Japanese to English. Oh my god, your legs. Medic, we need a doctor in the house. Anybody? Oh Jesus Christ. He covered his face. That's Gordon Hayward and JJ Watt combined, but worse. Fuck, he exclaimed, backing off as his nanites slid down his face, feeling his stomach turn in knots. Seeing the girl look nauseous staring at him, The pain expressions from Green combined with his legs and oh fuck his arm is the same. No limb should be at that angle. Not a good idea to have Saria. Peter turned around, going behind a piece of debris and hurling. The brunette continued to puke as if sympathetically this time. And Green continued to mutter need points. Need points. Just one. Times. Called out Present Mike's voice over the loudspeakers. Up. Green's paused. Snot and tears dribbling down his face as he looked to be utterly crushed. As if someone just took out his heart. Brunette stopped, resting on top of the pod and Peter finished excising his breakfast as he took deep breaths. Hey Green, Peter mentioned, calling him Midori, making the boy turn his head around, as if that was his name and Peter paused. He looked destroyed. His eyes were the same as his own many months ago. He paused. Gotta get you to a doctor. Stat. Good lord. Did you see the kid in Battle Center B? Juzo said with his arms crossed. He took out the gimmick with one punch. But at a price, Momo pointed at the green-haired boy who had his face in the dirt, even though the red gold-armored boy, now possessing brown hair and fair distinct Caucasian features, was by his side, talking to him. That quirk he has some serious backlash it seems. Yeah, but geez, talk about power. Could sink an entire cruise ship or rip a plane in two with a single punch. Setsuna exclaimed as she sipped some water. Still, how the heck can that kid even be a hero? Personally, the foreign boy talking to him. Now that's hero stuff right there. Are you referring to his combat abilities? He seemed to be on par with that berserker in Battle Center, the elegant brunette stated, as the wavy-haired girl beamed. Yeah, but like, did you see how Spider Guy was just flying around tagging and saving others? Heck, I saw him help other students get points when it was a straight competition. Setsuna grinned. Seems like if he was focusing on just robot killing he may have outdone Angry Blondie there. Spider Guy, Momo said aloud with a quirked eyebrow. Yeah, emblem on his chest. It's that of a spider. Well, that's not very heroic. Spiders are usually ugly and creepy crawly. The wavy-haired brunette didn't seem to care about her pony-tailed counterpart. Well, he's making them look mighty cool if you ask me. How many points did he get? I mean, he got a lot by the 5-minute mark. Had to have been like, dozens right. He has a lot. Like, I lost count after 35 or so. Maybe he was doing it out of charity. Juzo wondered. The lipless boy turned towards the bicolor-haired boy who was quiet, glaring at the screens. What do you think? Todoroki. Todoroki Shoto was silent, eyes on Spider Guy. That suit. It just fell over like sand all over his face. The spider legs that sprouted and shrank with no storage compartment in sight. Was it his quirk? No. Explain the web from his wrists. Or his incredible power and speed and agility. Or how he avoided the green-haired kid as if he knew he was coming. How did someone this talented not get a recommendation? This is absurd. That kid, the foreigner, Shoto said aloud. He fell through the cracks. Why he didn't get recommended you mean? Setsuna asked. The dark green-haired girl shrugged. Well, it happens. I mean, some of the best heroes come from nowhere. Still, the way he fought and handled the situation, whenever he wasn't acting like a fool and playing around. The heterochromic-eyed youth growled. Looked like a pro. He has to have had experience. Do we know the name of this kid? Juzo asked. Nope, but I can't wait to meet this Spider Guy. Spider Guy, Momo muttered off to the top of her lips, seeing the boy call out for help for the green-haired one. The way he went about fighting, saving and helping. Shoto remained silent, gripping his hands. His aim is to become the next All Might, without using the old man's quirk. The blonde-haired berserker looked easy to read, given his mannerisms during the battle. But this Spider Guy might prove to be a very troublesome rival indeed. But today certainly was not boring at least. Ida Tenya was befuddled as he sucked in oxygen, gazing at the scene of that American he scolded from before trying to bring some comfort to the green-haired mumbler from the written exam. How and why? It was utterly astonishing when he noticed a red gold-armored individual flying and flipping amongst the buildings and landing in the melees, and using a combination of some metallic out-of-nowhere legs, kicks and punches and spider webs. He was trashing UA. Finest practice robots. Was this the best UA had to offer for applicants to attend their academy? Or was it simply the American's sheer and raw power? His quirk puzzled him. Was it the suit, the legs, the web, the feats? But he also noticed the American was having fun. He heard him hooting and hollering and sounding as if he was treating this as some sort of recreational activity, and it irked the blue-haired heir to no end. motivating him to push harder. Yet while Tenya was busy kicking robots into scrap, he noticed the American, saving others from falling debris, robots about to ambush or overwhelm applicants, or other hazards. He even helped some acquire points. And on top of that, he rushed in to save that girl from the zero-pointer when it was in everyone's best interest to run and avoid it in the closing minute of the exam. And it wasn't just him, but the mumbler too. Neither of them hesitated to save her. Tenya blushed. Of course, if this wasn't a test he would have too. He was just caught up in the heat of the exam is all. Perhaps, did those two saw something beyond the point accumulation of robot slaying? Some deeper meaning. The judges had to have seen them act. And UA was a school for heroes. Very nice, very nice. A kind old voice snapped Tenya out of his thoughts. He turned and like with the rest of the examinees noticed the famed UA, nurse recovery girl. Everyone was happy, but Tenya barely noticed the American look up from the green-haired boy, still trying to console him before he noticed the old woman's presence. Hey, are you a doctor? This guy needs help. His arms and legs are pointing in different directions. Recovery girl frowned and slowly made her way over. The American got out of her way, sweating and nervously glancing at the boy below. He hurt himself pretty badly when he took out the zero-pointer. Wally, can you help him? Recovery girl smiled at him. Oh, course, that's why I'm here. Here, have some candy, young man. And your Japanese is quite good, if I do say so myself. Even with your American accent I can tell you speak fluently. The foreign boy gingerly accepted the offered candy. Thanks, but the kid. I'm on it, don't worry. Recovery girl finally looked down at the boy. Oh my, were you hurt this badly by your own quirk, sonny? She puckered her lips and gave him a big fat kiss. Tenya felt himself blanch, and the American outright dropped his candy with his jaw dropped. Then her quirk started to work. Before everyone's eyes, the boy's broken arm and legs slowly mended themselves back into the proper places. The American let out a long sigh of relief. Thank you. He had me worried there for a second. Like, he looked like Gordon Hayward mixed with Marshawn Lattimore and... No thanks necessary, sonny. Just doing my job. Are you hurt as well? Oh no, I'm fine, thanks. Well, get yourself cleaned up. Wouldn't want you to go home smelling like sweat and dirt now, would we? I'll get right on that. The American boy nodded. Recovery girl beamed a small smile and glanced around. If anyone else needs healing, just say the word. If not, you youngsters should all head home. You've done enough for today. You'll know your results within the week. Tenya nodded. Of course, the exam was over, and the judges needed time to review all that transpired. He joined the crowd of students that didn't need healing and walking towards the exit. The American, however, started walking in the opposite direction. Where on earth was he going? Did he hit his head during the exam and not remember where he came from? What's he up to? Tenya mused to himself aloud. Where are you going, young man? Recovery girl called out, seeing the boy walk into the city. The exit is that way. Oh, I'm gonna check the rest of the city, the American said, as if it was matter of fact. The old woman raised an eyebrow. If you're trying to score extra credit, I'm afraid there's none here. Recovery girl shook her head, only for the foreign boy to look confused. Extra credit. Now it was Tenya and Recovery girl's turn to be perplexed. Isn't that what you're going for? I was going to try and find anyone I could and help clean up. The city here is a mess anyway. The boy mused, hands on his hips as he looked over the battleground of ruined robots. Clean up. Half of the city is destroyed, and it was a practice city at that. It was UA's jurisdiction to do with it however it wished. Did he not understand that? Tenya's eyes widened. Wait, it's part of UA. That made it school property. This site was a practical exam. Does that mean this is just another classroom? It's possible. UA is the best and its resources need to match it. Clearly he misjudged this kid if he was able to look this far ahead. Cleaning up the classroom after an exam, of course. How could he have been so dense? He truly is more observant than he had thought. Recovery girl laughed heartily, patting the boy on the leg. Oh, that's sweet of you, but UA has drones already out and cleaning up this mess. As for helping everyone else, she paused as drone came down the street with a medical stretcher and an injured applicant. We've got that covered too. Just leave it to us. All right, the American said with a nod. If you insist. Recovery girl smiled and reluctantly, the American joined the crowd. Like sand, his suit overtook his head, returning it to the mask that Tenya had seen through the exam. He noticed him standing there and he waved. Hey glasses, do good on the exam. I hope so. Well, did you feel good about it? He asked, walking past. Of course. I felt like I did my best. Sweet. Congrats, and best of luck to ya. He then trotted off, leaving Tenya alone. What a strange boy with an even stranger suit. He must have had professional help and backers to have a suit of that caliber. Other examinees parted and made way for the foreigner, whispering in hushed tones, all in awe. That was it. The test was over, but the work had just begun. Aizawa Shouta would have the names on his desk within the hour. All Might had already left to go prepare for film evaluations. Principal Nezu worked in strange ways, but he'd worked with the mouse long enough to know how he thought. He'd throw both Bakugou and Parker into his class, no doubt about it. The rest were up in the air, but those two were set. The Berserker genius, given his 100 on the written exam, and the foreign Enigma, who got a 70 in his written, but aced the practical with flying colors, both in his room for him to observe and mentor. Oh joy, he was too tired for this. Also, who the hell was banging on the door? Guess she's up, Nimue mused. Oh, right, Mount Lady. Aizawa opened the door and tilted his head to avoid an overzealous fist hitting his shoulder. The young heroine, right now dressed in casual, yelped in surprise and embarrassment, and Aizawa already felt a stab of annoyance. Quiet down, this is the hallway, not the locker room. Sorry, she said, hanging her head. I just wanted to see how Peter performs is all. You can be apologized by answering something for me. Mount Lady perked her head up. What's Parker's quirk? You blinked, then narrowed her eyes. Why do you want to know? Her eyes brightened a second later. Did he do well? Of course he did. He'll never let me down. You squealed even as Aizawa felt his eye twitch. I'm under no obligation to tell you. He finished through gritted teeth. Parker's results are official UA information and are under strict confidentiality. Regardless of you being an alum, I can't just say that he did great, Yu-chan. Aizawa groaned and turned around and glared. God damn it, Midnight. Ever heard loose lips sink ships? Never opened Pandora's box? At her friend's answer, you went from excited to beaming with pride. Really? Yep, he'll be somewhere in the top 10 at least once we get everything settled down. Midnight, you're not helping, Aizawa groaned. Oh, lighten up, Eraser. Nimue gave her fellow teacher a good-natured pat on the back. Yu-chan knows not to let anything slip. Right? Hehe, yeah, totally. That didn't sound very sincere. Nimue smirked, and the blonde waved her arms. I won't tell. I promise. Please don't put me asleep again. Please put her to sleep again, Aizawa droned. 2 sentences and he was already ready to clock out of this conversation. Unfortunately, he still had questions. Take Yama-san. His showings say he's got a lot more experience than just one vigilante report would suggest. The black-haired man stated with crossed arms. You wouldn't happen to know about that, would you? Well, why, you see. Oh, don't be such a stick in the mud, Aizawa, Nimue said, waving the comment aside. It's not like the kid couldn't have a teacher before now. Probably had one with his family before they passed away or something. Why, yeah, that's it. He did have a mentor in America, Mount Lady added. Speaking of Peter, I should probably go find him. Awa, but we just started, Nimue pouts. I'll tell you everything next time you're in Musutafu. Drinks are on me, Mount Lady promised. Who is his mentor? Who gave him his suit? Answer me, Eraser demanded. But you had already untangled herself from her friend and rushed down the hall as fast as her legs could take her. Aizawa narrowed his eyes, only for Nimue to scoff next to him. He's not the worst we've had. Relax. The records don't add up. Aizawa growled, to which Nimue shrugged. So what if they don't? He's not the first with a shady background that we've let in, and he won't be the last. He's a hero in the making. You know that, don't you? Aizawa huffed. Despite his grievances, the kid did spend most of his time saving people instead of rushing villains, largely because he was able to destroy the robots so fast and with such efficiency. But that didn't stop him from wondering and his inquisitive nature to ask the big questions. Too many facts didn't add up. This kid just happened to have a vigilante report during Mount Lady's debut. He just so happened to be a friend of the family to get him guardianship. He just so happened to have tech worthy of a professional hero. The report came from the Musutafu Police Department, same one that cooperates with Mount Lady's hero firm. 1 unknown he could let slide, 2 would get his attention, 3 was begging him to question it, 4 was a bright neon sign inviting him in. And he would. After all, Shouta would have all year to get what he needed, both from Peter and other outside sources. Peter had changed out of his costume and back into his street clothes when he got on the bus heading back to the UA campus. Everyone was muttering and whispering at him, eyes wide, and Peter couldn't help but blush a little. So this is what it's like to have your identity on display, huh? Well, if Mr. Stark and the Avengers can handle some publicity, so can he. He would have to, since he no longer has to live a double life. He can be both Spider-Man and Peter Parker, once he graduates, that is. Although no one is willing to sit beside him on the bus. He even spotted Glasses sitting up front, deep in thought and sometimes giving him a look, not hostile but rather musing, deep in thought. Peter let it slide though. He looked out the window, seeing the buildings of UA. main campus until he heard a voice. Hello. He perked up, looking over, and it was the same brown-haired girl from the practical exam who floated him in green. She was out of her practical exam clothes and in her school's uniform, with a heavy jacket due to the February weather and a skirt. Speaking of, he didn't see Green at all. Maybe he was on a different bus. Peter did come onto the bus first after all. Pony must be on a different bus too, as there was multiple buses for Battle Center B. Oh hey, you're the float girl from earlier. Thanks for the save. Peter smiled. Need a seat. Not like he needed the save, since he would have used his web or spider legs to break his fall, but he appreciated the sentiment nonetheless. Oh, sure, and you're welcome. The girl placed her things in her lap and took her place beside him. And Peter, by the way. Peter Parker. Uraraka Ochako. It's nice to meet you, Parker-san. Ochako bowed lightly. Likewise. He turned back as the last of the kids filed in, and they were off, the bus moving down the road. And there was silence between them, with Ochako looking down. So, that green-haired kid. Peter mused. He really saved your bacon, didn't he? Yeah, he did. When we get to the main campus, I am going to find President Mike-san and ask him if I can hand over some of my points. The brunette stated, looking resolute. Peter perked up. That's right. He said he needed points. Peter remembered, cupping his chin. He looked back at the girl who was looking ahead as they moved along the bus. Wanna go together? Eh? Ochako turned in confusion. You're going to hand over some of your points too. Sure, I mean, the zero-pointer robot may have cost, like, 0. But he saved you. Peter closed his eyes. And this is a hero school. Green's quirk may be out of control, but he just needs tutelage and guidance. If a hero school doesn't let someone like him in, then that's just screwed up, don't you think? Say, you're right, Ochako stated, before beaming. Maybe if we give some of our points together, he can pass. I don't recall him having found a robot to destroy while I was busy floating them up and crashing them and helping others. And he did save my life. Wow, she was cute when she smiled. A country homely style of cute. Peter nodded. It's a deal then. So, does your quirk make you float things? He asked, sitting in his chair as he began to talk and socialize with Ochako. So apparently Ochako's quirk is zero gravity. Her quirk gives her the power to manipulate gravity upon touching solid things with the pads on her fingers. The targets then become weightless. She is able to activate or cancel her abilities' effects by closing her fingers together and saying release. But if she floats herself or exceeds her weight limit of 3 tons, she becomes nauseous, hence her losing her lunch after she saved him and Green. Wow, that's so cool, Peter said in utter awe. Ochako blushed, rubbing the back of her head. That must make things super easy around the house for ya. Oh, it's not all that. I did catch you flying around the city earlier. You're super cool yourself. So, what's your quirk like? Ochako asked with intrigue. Well, Peter scratched his chin. How do I put this? He crossed his arms and began to think hard. He couldn't just say it's his suit, or his strength or agility. Wait, don't spiders themselves have super strength? You know how spiders have like, super strength? Ochako blinked and tilted her head in confusion. I mean, Peter caught himself, remembering his vocabulary. For their size, relative to their size. He said the last sentence in English, and the brunette perked up. Oh, that explains your strength and agility. Like, ants themselves can handle up to many times their body weight relative to their size, and it's the same for you. But with spiders. Yeah, Peter snapped. Like that. I don't really have a name for it, so. Spider feats. He grinned awkwardly, and the girl laughed, making Peter blanch up. A quirk with a picture of a cute spider running with cute footsies and bootsies instead of their tensile-clawed legs. That painted a not-so-heroic picture. I'm sure you'll come up with a cool name in time. Then how does that explain the spider legs from your back and those zip lines you were using? Oh, that's from my super suit. My mentor gave it to me, the American boy said as he rested in his chair, looking out as he held the bag containing his normal suit and the iron spider module. Helped me enhance my abilities and use them to my very best. No kidding. You looked like a pro out there. Ochako felt the bus come to a stop and looked out the window as she perked up. Oh look, there's President Mike-san. Let's go to him now. The kids began to file out of the bus one at a time, Peter standing behind the brown-haired girl. When they finally got off, the two of them ran towards the faculty building and entered the lobby in which the blonde-haired DJ was talking with some staff members. The voice hero turned around, beaming as he noticed the duo. Hey, it's my audience from the written exam, he stated with a wide grin, pointing at Peter. What can I do for you two? The exams are over, so your parents will come along to pick you up soon. The two stood side by side as Peter looked at Ochako. "Excuse me, but," she paused, trying to find the words. "That curly-haired boy with the freckles. You know, the super plain-looking one. He also had green hair and took out the zero-pointer with one punch." Peter added, "I was hoping if we could give him some of our points." "Oh?" Mike quirked an eyebrow, intrigued and amused, giving his rising smirk. "Yeah, at the end he was saying that he needed points. Just 1 point. That means he didn't get any points during the exam, right?" Ochako surmised. "At least, can we give him some of our points? I think I got in the 20s or something." "Yeah, and I lost count after 35 or so." Peter waved a hand. "I got some points to spare. I would be more than happy to give him some." "Exactly, he saved my life," Ochako declared, and Mike's grin was enough to split his face in two. "And he took out a robot that could have been a major danger to everyone. Like, if this was real life, that robot would have caused a lot of damage and would have been a danger to heroes and civilians alike." Peter exclaimed. The fact he was able to take out that robot, saving potentially others and definitely saving Uraraka-san here, means that green there is a hero through and through. Ochako quirked an eye. "Midori. Green. I dunno his name so." Peter shrugged. Mike offered a closed-mouth grin, patting Ochako on the head. "Well, I'm afraid we can't just take and give some points, dear listeners, but you two don't need to worry about a thing," he said with a snap. "After all, what is a hero course that rejects those who saves others? That's anything but a hero course." He winked. Ochako and Peter perked up. "So, he'll pass, right?" Ochako asked, hopeful. Peter remained silent, on the edge of his seat. Mike snapped his fingers. "We'll go over the film, but I doubt there is anything to really comb over. Your lil friend there gave it his all in the act of saving others, since there is a hidden bonus system to the test." He then showed a toothy grin. "As for how much your friend will earn, well, you'll see next spring." Ochako and Peter perked up. "So we both passed too." "Oh, I bet. But as for how much points you both get from the villain point and the hidden bonus system, you'll just have to see." Mike snapped his fingers. "Now if you'll excuse me, I got some work to do, so to go on home and rest up. Hasta la vista, babes." Oh, I know that movie." Peter jumped, speaking in English. He began snapping his fingers and trying to guess the movie. "What is the name?" "GRRR, it's at the tip of my tongue. Was it the one with the robot people or the masked alien guys?" "Right. Thank you very much, Present Mike-san." Ochako bowed deeply. Peter did so, but not as deep as he was recovering over his. The blonde hero laughed and waved his arm. "Go beat the traffic, kiddos." Peter and Ochako rose up and looked at each other, beaming. "He's going to pass. I'm so glad," she chirped as the two walked out of the faculty building. Peter laughed and offered his hand to high-five, which the young girl gladly accepted. "I know, I'm happy for the kid. I actually kinda know him." You do?" "Yeah, lives around my neighborhood, or at least in Yusutafu." The brown-haired boy elaborated. "Seen him a couple times, but never had the chance to talk to him." They were walking back towards the parking lot and line of cars, where other students were meeting up with their parents or awaiting pickup to go to the train station. "I'll definitely talk to him when I can though." "Yeah, and I can't wait to see you back here, Parker-san." Ochako smiled. "Let's do our best to become great heroes." "Absolutely." Peter nodded, hands in his pockets as he heard someone call out for Ochako. He spotted a man waving at her in an old and dingy-looking truck. "Oh, that's my dad. I'll see you later. Bye, Uraraka-san." Peter waved, and the girl trotted with a skip to her step towards her parent. The boy from Queens smiled and leaned against a tree, looking at his phone until he got a text. Yu was in the school looking for him and will meet him by her car. He trotted out to the parking lot, ready to go on home. The evening was a blur of enjoyment, with Peter and Yu going out for teppan again as they went over their day. Apparently, Yu tried to crash the party at the faculty observing the practical exam, but she was unable to gain entry even though her senpai, Kayama Nimuriaka Midnight, was one of the faculty members. The fact that she was amongst the teaching staff made Peter raise an eyebrow, and gained a twisted fascination in hoping that the X-rated heroine may be his teacher. But their dinner was enjoyable, him relaying what he went through during both tests. He felt confident in both the written and practical portions, and Yu confirmed that she has a good hunch he will pass. They finished dinner and went on home to their apartment. With Yu being at her firm for a while, she got a raise and was able to get a new flat, albeit in the same complex. Peter no longer has to sleep on the couch or web hammocks. He has his own bed, his own room. They got home, they took their showers and were turning in for the night. "So, I'll get my acceptance letter within the week." "Yeah, sometimes it's tomorrow, sometime it is a week." The blonde shrugged. "Just be patient, tomorrow we got to get you school supplies. You start in March after all, and that's only a few days off. The brown-haired boy nodded. All right, I'm gonna hit the hay. Peter waved, going to his room. He closed the door, hearing you call out good night. He took a deep breath, content and happy to realize that he's going to become a hero. Peter looked at his bed. Sleep should be a welcome reprieve. Not for him. He shed his clothes, plopping down on the bed. He's making his big step into becoming a professional hero. His dream to help others. Become a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Peter closed his eyes and turned over, gripping the sheets. He hasn't told you. He hasn't told a soul. His physiology hid it well. The terrors he sees in his dreams. The nightmares. His comrades and loved ones turning to dust. Being choked by the mad titan. Rushing into Mr. Stark's arms. Before Peter turned to ash. The numbness as his body crumples like burnt char. The cold void of death. Peter curled up, letting out a sigh as he tried to force himself to sleep. Tomorrow is another day. A week later, it finally came. Peter was on the couch fiddling with some old computer parts that he managed to salvage from the local dumpster. You had been mortified when he brought it in, but he couldn't just leave it. Quality parts like this didn't fall out of the sky, and it kept his hands busy. The bell rang, and Peter heard a single letter fall through the mail slot. His hands froze, and in the kitchen, you dropped something. As one, they leaned over to see what had come through. On that plain white envelope was a single stamp marked with the UA symbol. It's here, you screamed in delight. Peter walked over and picked it up, bracing himself right before you slammed into his back, hugging him, trying to get the letter. Open it. Izzy. Peter quickly ripped the seal free from the letter. Inside was a small handwritten note and what looked like a tiny arc reactor, except without the energy or the glowing parts. You plucked the disc before Peter could ask and threw it on the counter. It clicked as it landed, and a large screen projected came into view. Behold, for I am here, as a projection. The voice of All Might, the symbol of peace and justice, dressed in a nice yellow pinstripe suit, boomed out of the speakers. Peter flinched. He was expecting something, but a booming picture of the #1 hero exploding into the living room was not it. All Might, what is he doing in a UA letter? You wondered aloud. I know what you must be thinking. Why am I here? Well, it's to congratulate you on your exemplary performance in the practical exam a week ago, young Peter Parker. Huh, that's new, you said, picking up her drink. Since when did the #1 hero help with UA admissions? For you see, you're not only looking at the #1 hero, you're looking at the newest UA faculty member. Peter ducked just in time to avoid his guardian's spit take. Say what? Nimiri-chan hid that from me. Peter ignored Yu's rant and couldn't take his eyes off the screen. Even though the speakers, he could feel it. The raw charisma of the #1 hero, the strength, it all poured out of All Might like a waterfall. And as a faculty member, I heard about you and young Uraraka's request to give away your points. Wait, what? You screamed before looking at Peter as if he destroyed a ceremonial urn. What for? A kid I met saved a girl but he had no points. What was I supposed to do? Peter asked. Truly admirable, both of you, but there is no need to worry. Like you might have guessed, the practical exam wasn't graded on villain points alone. After all, what kind of hero course would turn away someone willing to save others, regardless of the consequences to themselves? That's what heroism is all about, so there are rescue points. The screen flashed, and Peter's eyes bulged at the sight. It was a name next to #8. To Midoriya Izuku, 60 rescue points. The camera panned up to 4th place. To Uraraka Ochako, 45 rescue points. Another flash, and Peter felt his jaw drop to the floor. Cause right there, right next to the 1st place, #1 was his name. And to you, Peter Parker, 70 rescue points and 69 villain points, nearly catching my own record. You have passed at the pinnacle of the first-year rankings. All Might then took out a napkin, dabbing his forehead, ever-present smile on his visage. I'm going to be honest, you had me sweating there. But this is not nervousness, no, but anxiety and excitement. And I'm sure you must be feeling the same too, young Parker. He did pass, but at 1st place. Peter began to laugh in disbelief. He had a feeling he passed. But get to #1 like that. You grabbed his shoulders and giggled, but he couldn't hear her. All Might's grin widened as he reached out to the screen. I know you've trained hard to get to this spot, so allow me be the first to say it. All Might eyed the screen once more, and across the city, 2 boys heard the symbol of peace say the same words. Welcome to your hero academia. The projection shut off, and in a small apartment, a green-haired boy couldn't stop the tears from flowing. In another, a boy not of this world smiled bright, getting watery-eyed as you cackled, jumping up and down for joy. He did it, didn't he? Did you see that, Mr. Stark? Uncle Ben, one step closer to being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man he dreams to be. Hopefully the dreams will be worth it at this point. The cold airs of winter gave way into spring. Over the weeks, Peter had tinkered with the computer parts he found in trash heaps, and his room was like a workbench where he was busy working late into the night. And that hologram projector he got from UA in the acceptance letter was his focus as he used his tools and moved with precision. Okay, he muttered, eyeing the suit in his hand, feeling the small compartment where the mainframe lied, where Karen was stored. Peter bit his lip and tried to poke a hole with a needle, but it wouldn't go. Just like with scissors, bolt cutters, sharpened knives, and now something as light and small as needle, he couldn't penetrate it. He looked at the motherboard he made from the hologram projector with its various hookups. Peter grabbed the suit and flung it at the wall behind him before collapsing on his chair, hands in his face. Fuck, he yelled, muffled by his hands. So much for that. He can't access Karen, not with the tools this world has or with the computers they have. It's not as sophisticated as the Stark laptops he and Ned would run, and he has no access to any resources that can puncture the suit, especially the region closest to the compartment by the spider emblem. It was like working with technology from the era of ET and the Goonies, yet had some impressive stuff like holograms. It just baffled him. His shoulders shuddered as he sobbed a little. He needs to clean this up when he can. He needs to focus on getting ready for his first day at UA Academy tomorrow. Sort out his school clothes for the week, make some new web fluid to insert into the suit. Maybe Pony is in his class, or Midori or Uraraka, even Eiji too. Think of nicer things. He got up and walked over, grabbing his suit and holding it in his hand. Sorry Karen, I'll have to wait till I get some high-tech stuff to access you. And sorry for throwing you against a wall. And just, Peter paused, taking a deep breath and sitting back down as he looked at his messy desk, letting out a deep exhale. He needed to clean up. I'll get to you soon. Okay, no response. He went over to his closet and hung up his suit, where he had his weekly arrangement of his school uniform hung up. He had you order 5 shirts and pants so he wouldn't use the same one every day. He'd just use Monday's uniform on the half day on Saturday. He'll never get over half school on Saturdays. Kick some ass, Peter. You yelled from her car as Peter opened it, looking back at the blonde as he carried his backpack. He was in his trousers, jacket, and short-sleeve shirt with his tie a little loose, and he gave a thumbs up. And thus, Peter's high school career begins. Again, Peter walked up the pathway from the parking lot, as other students came filing in from the public transit stop as well. Peter had his hands in his pockets as he gazed at the towers of UA's main academic campus and through the front gate. The brown-haired boy wondered what his classmates will be. Maybe Pony will be there, or Glasses. Hopefully Uraraka-san got in. He looked down at his phone, seeing that he was in Class 1A, or simply Class A. Okay, 1A should be on the first floor. Wait, check the map. Peter corrected himself, seeing a map of the school right inside the doors leading into the facility. He looked over the map, detailing the layout of each floor, other students doing the same. Some gave him a second glance, obviously due to the fact that he was a foreigner. Let's see. Support. Second years. Genera Educati there. Hero course. Room 1A. Peter beamed, standing up straight as he walked down the hall. He had time before class began. He noticed a spiky red-haired boy walking forward, muttering to himself as he looked at his phone as he navigated the hallway. Stairs is that way. Elevator is closer, might as well take that. Wait, his voice sounded familiar. Edgy? Peter asked, and the kid perked up, turning around. He had the same red eyes and a tough but charming demeanor about him, and his hair, no longer long and black, but spiky and scarlet. Yeah, it was him. From the practical. Wait, the kid pointed at him. You that armored spider guy. Yeah. Edgy had a toothy grin as he went up and shook Peter's hand. So you were the guy going around taking out robots left and right. You were the talk on my bus when we finished. Name's Kirishima Ijaru. What's yours? Peter Parker. I'm from America. I can tell your Japanese is good. He grinned. So, you in the hero course too? Yeah, was just heading there myself. Class the same here. Lead the way. So, where in America you from? What brings you here to Japan? Ijaru asked with a wide and beaming grin. Well, I heard UA was among the best of the best schools, so I wanted to go there, Peter said with a scratch of his cheek. Not like he has a choice in the matter. Might as well stick with that as his cover story, that he and you would go over as to why he was in Japan. Not like he can leave anyways. All might came from UA. Right, so I want to follow in his footsteps. Oh, and I'm from New York City as well, specifically Queens. There, that should help. Everything seemed to revolve around All Might anyway. Smart move. I'm aiming to be like my idol, Crimson Riot myself, hence why I dyed my hair after the practical. He may have not gone to UA, but I wanna be just like him someday. Ijaru pointing a thumb at his chest. That's a man's man right there. And I've always wanted to go New York someday. Maybe when we become pros we can go there together and you give me a tour. So, do you know who our teacher is? I know All Might just began teaching at UA. And all. No clue. Izuku had his hands behind his back at Peter's response as they walked into an elevator and pressed the button the floor UA was going to be in. Except the door didn't close all the way as a hand stopped it. And it was the angry-looking red-eyed blonde kid from the written exam entering, scowl on his face. "This going up to the floor where class 1 is?" he asked. His eyes settled on Peter, narrowing a little before going back to Izuku. "Yeah, you in there too." Blondie smirked. "Of course, I aced both tests after all. Getting in here was a breeze," he said confidently, hands in pockets as he leaned against the wall. "Might have been a little rough for you extras, I bet." "Extras?" Peter asked in Japanese, earning Blondie's attention. "Yeah, I'm going to be number 1 around here. The top hero, like All Might." He smirked darkly as the elevator came to a stop. "So if you don't want to die or anything, just don't get in my way." Die? What was he on about? "Excuse me?" Peter asked, following Blondie as Izuku followed suit. Up ahead Peter could see that 6-armed dude from before entering a classroom, followed by some plain-looking girl with short hair, and what's with those long earlobes? Blondie looked over his shoulder with a scowl. "Did I stutter, Foringer?" he sneered. "I said." Blondie spoke in English, eligible but accented. "I'm going to be number 1. The strongest hero, like All Might. And you are a redshirt, an extra, a stepping stone." Peter frowned and his eye twitched. "So, Blondie's one of those kind of guys, huh?" "Yeah, whatever man. Let's just get to class. I'm not here to start anything, okay?" Peter rebuked in English. Izuku looked confused. "Well, you know English too?" he asked in Japanese. "What, think I wouldn't?" Blondie asked as if he was insulted, glaring at the redhead. He stormed off, walking ahead at a faster pace. "Jerk," Peter muttered. Izuku offered a slight smile. Maybe he's just nervous, he mused as Peter kept his eyes on the sulking blonde as they entered the class. "Well, the doorway's tall. Guess it's fitting if they get tall students or teachers," Peter mused as he entered the classroom. Everyone was filing in, and some were busy socializing. He looked around, and the brown-haired boy began to take stock of who his future classmates would be. You can see an invisible floating shirt and gloves talking with some blonde guy with a very thick tail. Some dude with the head of a crow looked like he was sleeping, eyes closed. Some blonde-haired dude was talking with a plain-looking guy with black hair, and that same earlobe girl from before was talking with them too. There was some big-looking boys, one who looked like one of those dinosaur people from that dinosaur sitcom, and the other was built like a Mack truck with big lips. "You, Hiroshima-kun, you made it. Thought you might have gotten lost for a minute there," said a female voice as Peter saw someone run up to them. Pink hair, pink skin, small antenna, golden eyes with pitch-black sclere, and with a bright disposition. Izuku blushed a little. "Thanks Ashido-san. Anytime." Thon was the confident and boisterous young man, and in his place a shy and bashful boy. "Girls can do that, Peter knows." The pinkette stepped aside as Blondie sauntered over and got to a seat, plopping down, leaning back and resting his feet on it. Seriously, he acted like he owned the damn place. "What center were you in?" the redhead asked the pinkette. "I was in Battle Center D, but I got enough to pass." She turned her attention onto Peter. "Made a friend." "Oh, a foreign student too. I'm Ashido Mina." She held out a hand, grinning ear to ear. "Nice Tamicha." Peter was taken aback. Sure, she's seen a lot of strange people, but Mina seemed so normal despite the pink everything, and reminded him of Mantis with those short antennae of hers. Peter Parker." The brown-haired boy took her hand and shook it. "The pleasure is mine. I met Kirishima-san here during our practical exam too. Helped him take out a robot or two." "Help? We did a tag team move, that's what." Izuku grinned. "He used his webbing and armor to sling up some faux villains, and he swung him towards me and I grabbed mine and we crunched them together." Nina let out an "oh." "Rahad," she cheesed. "Well, it's nice finally meet you, Parker-kun. Could use some more cuties like you in class. Americans do add a certain spice to things," she added with a wink. Both Izuku and Peter blanched up, pink on their cheeks. Peter was speechless while Izuku was blubbering while Nina chortled. I'm joking. We're here to be pro heroes after all." She waved her hand. "I can't wait to hear what stories you had back in America. Your Japanese is really good." "Yeah, you're right." Thanks." Peter smiled awkwardly. "Well, when you look past the fact that Mina has pink hair and skin and eyes that honestly do look very exotic, now he can look closer. She definitely was a looker in her own right. Goodness, those are beautiful eyes." It's you," said a voice, and Peter turned around, and at the door was Glasses, standing tall and in his uniform. Peter raised a hand. Oh, hey glasses. The tall boy perked up, before adjusting his spectacles and walking towards the American, and then bowing deeply. Zaru and Mina were talking but had their eyes on glasses. Let me first say that I apologize for my conduct to you during the written exam. He put a hand to his chest, looking away. I clearly misjudged you. You clearly saw some deeper meaning during the practical exam, didn't you, as you went about assisting others with their scores and saving those less skilled or fortunate. That was the true test of what makes a hero, helping others when it was about a point competition. He bit his lower lip. I, on the other hand, did not realize that until after the exam was finished. If they had told us of the rescue point system, it would have made the act of saving others feel disingenuous and fraudulent to boot. A clever way to evaluate those with a heroic spirit, one in which I did not measure, as much as I hate to admit it. But you are truly a superior, an exemplary student than me. UA is more than honored to have you. Peter was silent, blinking. Thanks. Apology accepted. I apologize for my misconduct as well. You know, nerves can sometimes get the best of us. Were you nervous before the practical? The written exam was a bit tricky. I will not lie, I was nervous, considering this was Japan's finest hero institution, and those tests were quite important. You were calm all throughout, aiming to share that air of relief to others, and I even had other-based discriminatory bias towards you and did not see the message you were trying to convey. As a hero in training, I must learn to overcome those biases and learn from others in order to become not just a better hero but a better person. Glasses finished his rant as he noticed Peter offering his hand. Good lord, how does he breathe talking for so long? It's cool, man, we all get that way. And sorry we got off on the wrong foot. My name is Peter Parker. What's yours? I doubt me calling you Glasses is something you prefer for the long run. Peter offered with a grin. The boy blinked, before returning his content expression as he shook it. His blue eyes softened as he gave the American a firm shake. And I am Tenya. It is a pleasure to meet you and have you as a fellow peer here at UA Academy, Parker-san. Can all y'all shut up and get a room? I'm trying to relax before the teacher gets here. Blondie growled out, looking lazily at Tenya and Peter. The blue-haired youth noticed Blondie's feet on the desk and puffed his chest out in righteous indignation. The other students were busy getting into their seats. Take that foot off your desk right now, he demanded. Blondie only smirked, as if welcoming it. Huh? You're disrespecting school property like that, you cretin. Blondie only scoffed, enjoying the banter. Like I care of the opinion of an extra. Where are you from? Semi-private high, why does that matter? The red-eyed boy smirked, sneering up at Tenya. You must think you're better than me. He grinned. Gonna be fun blowing you to bits and knocking you down a peg, elite. Be blowing me to bits. Tenya acted as if he had been slapped. You're trying to become a hero, aren't you? How awful. Blondie kept the devil's grin on him while Peter put a hand on Tenya's shoulder. Ida-san, let's not get riled up. He felt Blondie's eyes on him. We should get ready for class and... He cut him off. Not get riled up. What? You from some hotshot American elite school too? He smirked. Go on, American. Blondie goaded in English. Where are you from? Peter looked at him, took a deep breath, opening his eyes and was about to reply. And there at the doorway was Green, standing like a deer in headlights as everyone turned towards him. Oh hey Green. Peter waved, calling him Midori, walking casually over to Green as Tenya marched. I'm glad to see you passed. Midoriya Izuku didn't know what to think. When he got there, he saw that tall boy, Tenya, talking with Kachin before Kachin stared daggers at the American boy for walking away from him, before settling his eyes on him, and the anger died down to a simmering glare. Oh, on to nicer things. The American, Peter Parker, the same boy apparently was at the Musutafu incident with that giant villain that correlated with Mount Lady's debut, wearing gear and possessing the skills of a pro, who looked like the same boy he would run to clean up the beach park early in the morning during his 10 months of training, and was the same one who saved him from a deadly fall after defeating the zero-pointer, who was about to fight that thing to save the girl he talked to on that day. And they both were the ones who wanted to give him some of his points. He was a boy who just wanted to help. Someone with the skills, gear, and abilities of a pro, with almost as much power as Kachin, wanted to help him. An absolute nobody, a quirkless failure to most, a quirkless ant to Kachin's eyes. Even after seeing One for All mess up his body, he still spent the last few seconds trying to get him a doctor. And now, he walked up and gave Izuku a congratulatory pat on the shoulder, though the green-haired boy couldn't do much to answer him when Tenya marched towards him. Greetings, I'm Ida Tenya from the Sumi Priva. I already heard you. Izuku cut him off. Parker chuckled a little as Ida composed himself. This is the part when he introduces himself. Yeah, that's what he should do. I'm Midoriya Izuku. It's nice to meet you, Ida-san. And you too, P. Parker-san. He bowed deeply in reverence. Parker scratched his head in embarrassment. I don't think I need to have a san, Midoriya-san. Call me Peter or Parker, I guess. Yeah, Izuku grumbled. All you did was save me. And you're using honorifics for others when you yourself don't want any. What was that? Parker asked with a quirked eyebrow. Nothing, Izuku shouted with a clammed-up expression. Parker blinked and still had that confused expression, and Ida cleared his throat. Midoriya, allow me to apologize for my actions. Parker scratched his head nervously. Someone like him could get nervous. Is this about the whole misjudging thing? It's cool, you don't need to man. Like, you apologized. I only apologized to you, Ida pointed out, waving his hand. But I need to atone for my actions against both of you. Sure you do. Parker offered. Didn't you already apologize to me? Izuku on the other hand darted his gaze between the two boys. What on earth were they talking about? Ida turned to the green-haired boy and bowed. Why is he bowing? What did he do to deserve this? Parker gave Izuku a sympathetic look and slowly stepped back. Izuku panicked. No, don't leave. He needed to tell him something. Midoriya, oh gosh, Ida talking. And he looks so serious. I must say, when I first saw you, you were dishonoring the other students during the written exam with your mutterings. Izuku flushed, averting his gaze, because it's not like he could stop himself. Present Mike had come on stage, and he couldn't stop his geeking out. But I see now that your mutterings were simply a sign of your observational abilities. Parker blinked, and was looking back and forth between the two. You and Parker-san both perceived the true nature of the practical exam. Ida continued, Parker raising his hand to interject when he was called san but stopped. I on the other hand was too focused on the surface level details. I must confess, even if I don't like it, but you two are the superior students. Said the exact same thing, only different. Parker muttered a little with a blank face. It's cool, man. Relax. Izuku didn't know how to react to this. What was he supposed to say? Ida was so serious, but the green-haired boy didn't perceive anything. He just reacted on instinct. Being honest, he's lucky he got through on his rescue points. Nevertheless, receive my humblest apologies, Ida declared. To you both. He bowed, and as one, Parker and Izuku leaned back. They shared an awkward look, even as Ida grit his teeth in some unknown frustration. Geez, is everyone in this class but the American weird? Oh, I know that curly hair. The plain-looking boy. Izuku jolted upright while the brown-haired boy grinned. He turned and felt his face heat up. It was the nice girl, Uraraka Ochako, and she looked really cute in that uniform. Wait, she and Parker were in his class. What were the odds? Astronomical. But Izuku couldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. This was the perfect opportunity to thank them for trying to help him. All he had to do was tell them. Yo, Uraraka-san, Peter calls from behind him. Izuku froze up. Wait, they knew each other. Oh yeah, they were in the video. Uraraka beamed, jumping to the side and giving the American a kind smile. Heya Parker-kun, guess you made it. I'm glad you made it too. And we're in the same class to boot. Parker gave a thumbs up, and Uraraka's grin could split her face in two. Wait, he's talking to a girl, and he's acting so confidently about it too. Oh, don't be so humble. You were great with all the amazing swinging and spider legs and stuff. Almost as cool as Midoriya's awesome punch. She gave off mock punching to emphasize her words. Yeah, that was pretty cool, Parker agreed, turning towards Izuku with an approving smile. Both of them were looking at him. Were they calling him amazing? They were the ones that saved him. He just did what All Might told him to do. Wait, he has their attention. This is his chance. Izuku stammered and had his hands around his head as he tried to figure out a proper response. I guess I should be thanking you two for trying to give me points. Both brown-haired youths perked up. Huh? How did you know about that? Uraraka asked with a tilt of her head. Wait, she didn't know she was being recorded. A quick look revealed that Parker was just as shocked as her. Oh gosh, he probably wasn't supposed to say that. You mean, what? Did that work? Did All Might tell you? Parker asked. Over the holoprojector thingy. It didn't. Behind him, Uraraka looked at the American questionably. All Might, why would he talk to Midoriya-san? She caught what she had said, immediately became flushed and threw out her hands. Not that you're not awesome or anything, I'm just saying that he's the #1 hero and you're so ordinary. That didn't make him feel any better. Izuku's shoulders slumped, deflating like a balloon. while the tall Ida adjusted his glasses. I believe Parker-san is correct one of our acceptance holo projectors. They explained our placement as well as our total points. Ida crossed his arms. I got Cementos congratulating me, so you two receiving praise from All Might while being accepted. Truly UA is honored to have you in its halls. You said the same thing again. Peter muttered a little. That's right, his video put him at 8th place. Where did Parker get? While Izuku was busy trying to tag one robot, he could see Parker zipping around slingshotting and taking robots down as if they were paper. That, Iroraka then laughed, rubbing the back of her head. Sorry about that. I guess I was so excited that I forgot about it. I don't see how considering it tells our practical rankings. Ida pointed out with some hand gestures. Parker bit his lower lip and he slowly moved back. Yeah, those pretty cool stuff, right? Silly me for bringing that up. Heh. Yeah, made my parents real proud coming in 4th. What about you guys? Iroraka beamed, looking back between the boys. I managed to secure the 7th place, Ida said, turning to Parker, who was a lot further away that Midoriya remembered. What about you? Where did you place? Parker swallowed something in his throat and muttered something. I didn't hear you. What did you say? Izuku asked. He had to have had a high score, right? Top 3 maybe. Parker took a deep breath. I got in 1st, he admitted, looking pale. 1st, that one word dropped a bomb in the classroom, where everyone had been paying attention to Ida's antics and the gimmick killer in Izuku. Iroraka's jaw dropped. Ida's eyes were like plates, and that was nothing compared to what the class reaction. Eyes that were on him immediately shifted to Peter. Some of them were curious, like the sparkling blonde boy in the front. Others were analyzing, like the piercing gaze of the bird-headed boy. Others not as surprised, like the pig-tailed girl in the back, or the red white-haired boy sitting close to her with very narrow eyes. Others in astonishment, like the blonde kid talking to the earlobes girl. And then there was Kacchan. Izuku paled as he saw the smoldering aura from the blonde. He saw that when Kacchan demanded to know how Izuku passed that day back at Aldera Junior High. But this, his crimson eyes were burning holes in the American's head. His teeth were bared as he let out a soft, but audible growl. He was gripping the seat so hard that he might start cracking along with a mini explosion popping in his hands. Reactions might have been missed, but Midoriya heard the collective thought. This American, out of everyone trying to get into UA Academy, out of everyone in this class, in the hero course, got 1st in the practical exam. Peter Parker, out of every first year, was the closest to being a pro, and everyone knew it. Way to go, Peter. Not even the first day of school and you've already put a bullseye on your back. Least it only took a couple of weeks before Flash pegged me and Ned. It just came out. It's not like he was trying to brag. He was answering a question during a conversation. Heck, with his villain total, he should have gotten 2nd. He only got that far with help from the Iron Spider suit. If he didn't have that, who knows where he would have gotten. Maybe around Tenya's score, or more. He didn't know. Didn't stop the rest of the class from looking at him like a hunk of meat or a circus act. Okay, not the best metaphor, but Peter never worked as the center of attention. All these eyes on him, some of them coming from normal-looking students to the blonde guy, and wait a second. In the back, there was that drop-dead gorgeous girl from in front of the recommendation section. Her eyes were narrowing, and Peter could imagine 1,000 of those calculations going through her head, and he just noticed that she was sitting behind him. She glanced down to his chest, and Peter couldn't help but follow her gaze. Did he have something on his shirt? He patted around it, and the girl noticed, then looked away. A few rows back, a multi-arm guy raised his eyebrows at him. Why was the floating girl clothes blushing, with those pink marks where the head would be? Ooh. He got 1st. He can hear the voice as the clothes leaned towards a black-haired kid. It has to be a joke, right? Peter bit his lip and took a deep breath. He looked out of the corner of his eye, the angry blonde gripping his desk as if he was ready to pounce. Just steer clear of him, and if you're going to waste time talking about points, then you should leave. Dead silence filled the room. Everyone turned to the source of the voice. It was a scruffy, tired-looking, long, shaggy, black-haired man in a yellow full-body sleeping bag. Ochako jumped back in fright, seeking refuge behind Midoriya. The man stared at all of them, nonplussed before scrambling for something in his bag. Welcome to UA's hero course, he muttered tiredly. Sleeping bag brought his hand out holding a full bag of squeezable applesauce. One suck drained the entire thing, slurping loudly and not giving a single fuck. Peter blanched, as did the rest of his peers. What is with this guy? He'd seen some weird guys, sure, but Star-Lord not knowing that Missouri was on Earth was completely different from this fellow. It took you 8 seconds to quiet down, Baggy Eyes said as he crawled out of the bag, dressed in a weird black outfit with a utility belt around his waist and a long scarf tied around his neck. Has he combed that head of his like ever? His black hair was so long and unkempt. Time is precious. You lot could do me a favor and be rational about it. If do so, I'd appreciate it. A tired eye made its way to Peter, who was standing near the bank. You're not supposed to be up there, that's my spot. Get to your seat, please. Peter looked around and sure enough, he was at the front of the class. Gah, that's sorry. He backed away. With tired eyes he groaned as he entered the classroom. Hello, I'm Aizawa Shouta, your teacher. Nice to meet you all. His delivery was so bored and devoid of emotion that Peter joined the rest of the class in surprise. This guy was the homeroom teacher of a hero academy. He looked ready to drop dead from exhaustion, not teach a class. Clearly no one told him that everyone needs sleep, because he set his eyes on Peter again. You're not in your seat, in fact, most of you aren't. Peter and the other doorway companions didn't need to be told twice. They quickly made their way to their seats, either the ones that they marked or had to sit in. In Peter's case, he was lucky enough to return to his backpack. But as he approached, he felt something tingle in the back of his head. He looked to the side and saw a student next to the cute girl was glaring at him. His red and white hair shadowed his eyes and gave the burn scar over his left eye an almost malicious light. The look he was giving him, Peter recognized it. It was the same look some of the heroes gave him back in Germany. They weren't nearly as scary looking, but it was the same look. Captain America's gaze was filled with concern and curiosity, and the soldier and Falcon were more surprised with his showings to look at him any differently. This guy, though, he looked expectant. What was his deal? He took his seat in time to see Mr. Aizawa reach into his bag and pull out a blue with white trim gym uniform. Right, put these on as quick as you can and head outside. Where to? Peter asked. The training grounds. Training grounds? Didn't they need to get to orientation? As if his quirk was hearing the unspoken question, Aizawa frowned. What are you doing? He asked. Do heroes stand around when they've received an order? Get to it. Yes, sir, came the reply of most of the class. Peter didn't know, but he did what he was told. What were they going to do on the training grounds and on the first day? The quirk apprehension test. The students all said as one. Shouta was irritated but kept his composure. Uraraka came up to him. What about orientation? We're gonna miss it. Boy, this girl didn't get it. If you want to become heroes, you can't waste time on pointless ceremonies, Shouta stated as he looked back at the crowd of youths. UA is known for its freestyle educational system. That applies to us teachers as well, so I can run my class as I see fit. The entire class just looked confused. All right, he turned towards the group. Ball throw, standing long jump, 50-meter dash, endurance training, grip strength, side-to-side stepping, upper body training, and seated toe touch. You did all of these in middle school during your standard non-quirk gym tests. Shouta took a deep breath. Time to vent a little and educate. Japan still insists on prohibiting quirks when calculating the averages of those records as to give those with less power more of a chance. It's not rational. The Department of Education is just procrastinating and wasting time for those who should be ahead of the pack. He turned towards the crowd, his tired eyes settling on the seething berserker genius. Bakugou. He perked up. How far can you throw in middle school without using your quirk? 67 meters, give or take. Bakugou said resolutely. Shouta reached into a bucket beside him and tossed him a UA. Quirk test softball. Great. Now try it with your quirk. Anything goes. Just don't leave the circle. He stepped back, grabbing the work phone that will track all the results of the test. Give it all you got. Bakugou stretched his limbs, walking into the circle. All right then, here goes. He got into position and wound up his arm, and followed through all his might, an explosive blast leaving his hand. Die, Bakugou roared. Shouta could hear the confused mutterings from the rest of the class. Well, he did whatever he needed to. The ball landed far away, and Shouta looked down at the result. Knowing the limits of your abilities is crucial. He showed the phone. 705.2 meters. Not a surprise, in his estimation. Bakugou was a wild horse, but his potential was oozing off him like water from a sponge. That's the first rational step to figuring out what kind of heroes you'll be. The entire class was in awe, giving praise to the blonde who seemed to smirk. Genius berserker, and loves to preen like a peacock when given praise. Lovely. Midoriya seemed nervous, looking around as the class socialized and talked about how they're gonna use their quirks. Parker looked at it all and was impressed, judging by how he looked at Bakugou before looking at his own hands. But here are these brats going on and on how the hero course was fun and awesome. Oh, how wrong they are. Awesome, you say? Shouta asked, before leering at the teens. You're hoping to become pro heroes in 3 years' time, and you think it's gonna be all fun and games. That made the crowd shut up, and the man put forth his most intimidating smirk. Combined with his hair, He was looking like something out of a horror movie. Good, idiots. We will be taking 8 physical tests. The one with the lowest score across all 8 events will be judged hopeless, without any potential, and will be expelled on the spot. Wow, a lot of the students' air was deflated, and Shouta couldn't contain his smirk as he lifted up his hair, showing his eyes, despite the tired look and bags under them, showed focus and that he was not playing around. Time to put some fear into these brats and give them the kick in the ass they need. Your fate is in your hands. Now show me what you got. The one with the lowest score will be expelled. It's only the first day. Uraraka was lost for words. That isn't fair. And natural disasters are. Shouta retorted on the spot. Highway accidents and villain incidents. Calamity is always lurking around the corner. The world isn't fair, and it is a hero's job to correct that and make it fair. For the next 3 years, UA will be throwing constant adversity upon your shoulders to ensure you go beyond your limits, to surpass them and ascend to new heights. He had a smirk, gesturing to them to come. That is plus ultra. Use the powers given to you to overcome that adversity, and you'll thrive here. So bring your A game. He pocketed his hands, gesturing to the students. Now then, we've done enough talking. It's time we begin. And this is where the fun begins. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.